The tall walls were incomparably black. The gate was even more magnificent. In front of it were two stone carvings of flying tigers baring their fangs and brandishing their claws. The group of people escorted Lin Xian into the city lord's mansion. The guards who were guarding the door were puzzled. Didn't they say that they were going out to capture someone? Why were they escorting such a big shot back and accompanying him so carefully? Moreover, why was there a pig head in the team? No, that outfit. What? It was a vice domain chief. Everyone was shocked. They looked at each other, not knowing what had happened. Lin Xian did not go to the main hall. Instead, he was brought to a landscape garden. There were pavilions, terraces, and pavilions in picturesque disorder. There were rockeries and flying rocks. At this moment, the city lord and many of his subordinates were enjoying the dance and drinking when a guard suddenly reported. When he learned that the person on the wanted poster had been captured, his eyes instantly shot out a terrifying light. Bring that brat here. Soon, Lin Xian strode over. Behind him was a group of flying tiger army soldiers. Lin Xian swaggered around with a calm demeanor, as if he was the master of this place. When he walked to the front, Lin Xian saw the fine wine and delicacies nearby. He laughed loudly and sat down to drink to his heart's content. Many martial artists in the courtyard had uncertain expressions, especially City Lord Tian, who, his face was terrifyingly gloomy. This guy in front of them was too arrogant. He actually ignored all of them and ate and drank to his heart's content. Did he not know that he was a prisoner? How dare you? How arrogant! Why aren't you kneeling when you see the city lord? A young man shouted coldly. He was also wearing light armor, and his expression was cold. This young man was the son of the Flying Tiger Army's domain chief. When he saw Lin Xian's arrogant attitude, he was instantly enraged. Lin Xian held the wine cup in his left hand and laughed loudly. You're the bold one. How dare you speak like that? Why aren't you slapping yourself? His voice was filled with arrogance. You're courting death. The young man was furious. He immediately pulled out a sharp longsword and stabbed out quickly. No one stopped him. Everyone looked at this scene with gloomy expressions. This young man looked young, but his cultivation was at the peak of the spirit-detecting realm. His sword's momentum was shocking. The sword radiance was like a dazzling divine light that swept through the void. Red flames were attached to the sword aura. They danced, accompanied by a blazing aura. It was as if a ferocious fire dragon was spewing out. In an instant, the terrifying sword radiance enveloped Lin Xian. Die, brat. The young man's face was ferocious like a demon. However, in the next moment, a vigorous hand reached out and grabbed the head of the fire dragon. His 5 fingers bent and pierced through the head. With a mournful cry, the fire dragon disappeared, turning into a rain of fire that fell to the ground. Lin Xian snorted disdainfully. His gaze was like a sword that pierced forward. The young man's face turned pale. He took 3 steps back and spat out a mouthful of blood. You don't know how to use a sword, and you don't deserve to use a sword, Lin Xian said mercilessly. The young man clutched his chest. His eyes were spitting fire. He wanted to burn Lin Xian to death. He was considered an elite of the younger generation in the Flying Tiger City. His status was respected, and no one dared to speak to him like that. But now, an unknown brat dared to taunt him in public. This put him on the spot. His heart was burning with anger. He wanted to pounce forward and cut Lin Xian down. However, the terrifying scene from before made him fearful. He didn't dare to move recklessly. The others were even more shocked. This young man defeated the enemy in one move. No wonder he was able to kill Steward Du Himph, brat. You're very arrogant. How dare you behave so atrociously in my territory? Aren't you afraid of death? Tian, whose voice was cold and murderous. I'm just SOSO. I'm ranked 3rd in the blood realm. Lin Xian smiled. Tell me, why are you looking for me? Don't tell me you just want to enjoy my performance? Humph. Tian, who sneered. Brat, did you kill my junior brother? Your junior brother? Which one is your junior brother? Lin Xian snorted. I've killed too many people. I can't remember. Cut the crap. Did you kill Steward Du of the Green Wolf Gang? A burly man asked coldly. He was the lieutenant of the Flying Tiger Corps. He looked at Lin Xian with murderous intent. Steward Du? Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. It seemed that the Green Wolf Gang was behind this. Murderous intent rose in his heart. He had warned them not to provoke him, but they didn't listen and moved out of Flying Tiger City. Did they think he was so easy to bully? Since they didn't keep their promise, there was no need for them to exist. Lin Xian decided that after this matter in Flying Tiger City was over, he would destroy the Green Wolf Gang. I think you're mistaken. I didn't kill Steward Dewitt was the leader of the Green Dragon Gang. You're full of nonsense. You're still trying to quibble? Steward Dew is the right-hand man of the Green Wolf Gang. Why would the leader of the Green Dragon Gang hurt him? The lieutenant sneered. What a joke. I haven't even finished speaking, and you're already jumping out. Are you trying to show off your superior intelligence? Lin Xian sneered. In my opinion, you're just an idiot. Then he said coldly, the leader of the Green Wolf Gang is obviously afraid of me. That's why he killed Steward Dew. That's how it is. I don't expect you to believe me. All right, didn't you ask me to come here to kill me? Hurry up and do it. I'm in a hurry. His tone was impatient, as if he didn't care about them at all. Chapter 697. Lin Xian's words were out of everyone's expectations. He was too arrogant and did not put them in his eyes at all. Tian Hu's face was even more gloomy. As the city lord, no one had ever dared to be impudent in front of him. Little thief, do you know who you're talking to? Lieutenant Wang Yu shouted coldly. Brat, no one has ever dared to talk to me like that. Those who have been arrogant in front of me are all dead. Tian Hu's voice was cold. You have guts, but you have no brains. All right, stop putting on airs as the city lord. Lin Xian laughed disdainfully. If I don't say or do anything, will you let me go? We're going to fight anyway. Why should I give you face? Also, you don't have the right to be arrogant in front of me. Lin Xian's voice echoed, completely shocking everyone. Heavens, this guy was too crazy. He actually dared to mock the city lord without any scruples. Did he not know that the entire Flying Tiger City was under their control? He even said that this guy knew that he was going to die, so he wanted to go crazy before he died. Of course, everyone felt that the last possibility was very likely. You're courting death. Today, I'll let you know the consequences of behaving atrociously in the city lord's mansion. Lieutenant Wang Yu shouted angrily. He pulled out the long saber at his waist, held it with both hands, and slashed down. He had wanted to make a move for a long time. This brat in front of him was too arrogant. First, he injured the vice lieutenant of the Flying Tiger Army, then he injured his son. Now, he did not put him and the city lord in his eyes at all. Everything made Wang Yu go crazy, so he did not hesitate and slashed down with his saber. Only by cutting this hateful little thief in half could he vent the hatred in his heart. The saber flashed like a silver river dancing in the air. The void trembled, and a fierce and terrifying aura swept out like a tsunami. As the saber slashed down, the surrounding rockery shattered, and the waterfall flew backward. The momentum was terrifying. Lin Xian raised his head and punched out. The golden fist enlarged in the air like a small mountain. Golden arcs of lightning flashed around it, and thunder rumbled in the air. Terrifying lightning energy permeated the air, turning everything in the surroundings into ashes. The surrounding warriors retreated in fear, distancing themselves from the two of them and retreating to a safe place. At the same time, they were extremely shocked. This young man was really crazy, acting without any scruples. He actually dared to make a move in the city lord's mansion. Moreover, the terrifying power of lightning was truly terrifying. Wherever the golden fist passed, the void was almost unable to withstand it. Boom! The resplendent saber light collided with the golden fist, creating an earth-shattering sound. Then, the blade light trembled and shattered like glass, dissipating in the air. At the same time, Wang Yu's face turned pale as he retreated. Lin Xian's expression was calm. His fist turned into a palm and suddenly slammed down. The mountain-like golden fist in the void transformed into a golden palm that covered the sky. Wherever it passed, thunder and lightning would descend. Terrifying energy surged and created a bottomless black hole in the ground. The entire Hill Spring residences was completely destroyed. Everyone's expression changed. This palm was too terrifying. It was hard for them to imagine that this was an attack from a young man. This power definitely surpassed that of an ultimate warrior. Could this young man be a half-step honorable? Everyone's hearts raced, and their expressions changed drastically. A half-step honorable at such a young age was definitely a prodigy. Such geniuses were usually supported by powerful forces. Some of them were not forces that Flying Tiger City could contend against. Wang Yu's expression was even more horrified. He did not expect his opponent to be so powerful that he could shatter his attack with a single punch. Looking at the rapidly descending golden palm, he let out a low growl and quickly unleashed the power of his martial soul prototype. An extremely powerful force surged out and filled the surroundings. At this moment, Wang Yu's body was shining brightly. Terrifying energy filled his body, and he could even tear the void apart with a single move. He waved his palms and struck out an energy palm shadow. It swept the sky and resisted the golden palm above. However, the golden palm in the sky was too terrifying. It directly shattered the palm shadow that filled the sky and quickly enveloped Wang Yu. Boom! Wang Yu was sent flying. He kept retreating, and every step he took left a terrifying crack in the ground. The ground of the entire feng shui residences was torn apart as if an earthquake had occurred. Wang Yu's hair was disheveled, and his chest was heaving up and down. The corner of his mouth was stained with blood. This palm had seriously injured him. On the opposite side, Lin Xian looked calm. He did not even move his feet. You have the nerve to use your saber with such little strength? You said you would kill me. Can you do it? Lin Xian sneered disdainfully. Wang Yu was about to go crazy. He was like a wild beast. He roared again and again. His terrifying aura was like a burning flame. The spiritual qi in the sky gathered and formed an energy giant that was dozens of feet tall. Its hands were on the ground as it roared to the sky. The sound was like a wave that slapped in all directions, shattering the clouds in the sky. The giant glared at Lin Xian and then spat out an energy beam. Air waves rolled and the void shattered. The terrifying energy beam was like a demon spear that quickly rushed toward Lin Xian. Lin Xian sneered with disdain in his eyes. Then, he took a step forward and the spiritual qi in his body condensed into a terrifying sword qi that quickly slashed forward. The sword qi was dazzling and directly bombarded the energy beam, shattering it. Then, the terrifying sword qi slashed the energy giant's body and cut it in half. In the end, the dazzling sword qi enveloped Wang Yu. Everything happened too quickly. Everyone only saw Lin Xian take a step forward, and then a huge dazzling sword qi appeared in the sky. Wherever it passed, everything was annihilated. Nothing could stop it for even a moment. When the sword qi disappeared, everyone was shocked and gasped. That was because Wang Yu's body was cut in half and fell to the ground. His blood and organs were splattered all over the ground. It was a hideous sight. It was too terrifying. The domain chief of Flying Tiger City, a half-step venerable one, was killed with a single slash. Moreover, he could not fight back at all. His strength was heaven-defying, and the other party was such a young man. Countless people trembled and did not dare to look at Lin Xian directly. Tian, whose face was terrifyingly gloomy when he saw this. He did not make a move in the previous battle because he thought that Wang Yu, as a half-step venerable one, had an absolute advantage to kill the thief in front of him. However, Lin Xian's strength was beyond his expectations. Wang Yu was not strong enough, and the last slash was too fast. He did not even have the chance to save him. Looking at the terrified expressions of the Flying Tiger City soldiers, Tian, whose face became ferocious, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. He knew that he had to kill Lin Xian to settle today's matter. Brat, you dared to kill my people. No one can save you today. Tian, who released a terrifying aura. I'm going to cut off your head and hang it on Flying Tiger City. I'm going to let everyone know the consequences of offending Flying Tiger City. As Tian, who walked over step by step, his aura became more and more powerful. The pressure of a venerable one was completely released, making it difficult for everyone to breathe. He was not careless at all. Judging from the battle just now, Lin Xian could kill a half-step venerable one with a single slash, so his strength must have reached the venerable one realm. Therefore, he did not dare to be careless when facing Lin Xian. Chapter 698. Facing Lin Xian, Tian Hu did not dare to be careless. When the surrounding martial artists saw Tian Hu make a move, they immediately became excited because they knew that Tian Hu was a true venerable. He was extremely powerful and could be said to be the #1 expert in Flying Tiger City. Lin Xian's eyes lit up, and his expression was also extremely solemn. No matter what, the other party was a true venerable, far from what Wang Yu and the others could compare to. Therefore, Lin Xian did not underestimate this battle. A golden fist condensed, and Lin Xian attacked first, punching out. Golden light flickered like a sun, rampaging through the void. Everyone was shocked. They did not expect that Lin Xian would dare to take the initiative to attack in the face of a powerful venerable. Tian Hu laughed sinisterly and roared, immediately releasing his martial soul. His martial soul was a fierce tiger, and it was condensing behind him at this moment, accompanied by a monstrous and terrifying power. The tiger martial soul was very intelligent. It roared towards the sky, and the sound shook the sky. A strange sound wave blasted out with Tian Hu's fist, forming a spiral attack in the air. The air was ruthlessly torn apart. The fist wind was vast and mighty, and a gale swept out. It was like a fierce tiger attacking, swift and fierce to the extreme. The two fists collided with an earth-shaking sound, and the surrounding ground cracked and spread into the distance. Under one blow, they were evenly matched. The two fists were in a stalemate in the air, devouring each other. Whoosh! The surrounding martial artists were shocked. They did not expect Lin Xian to be able to contend with the city lord. This scene made them feel fear in their hearts. Tian Hu was also shocked. His attack was actually blocked, which was completely beyond his expectations. One had to know that he had used the power of his martial soul in this punch. Thinking of this, his face darkened. He had to use his full strength. He could not hold back anymore. Tian Hu gritted his teeth, his eyes burning with anger. Then, he took a step forward and merged with the tiger martial soul behind him. His originally tall and strong body grew another 3 feet, like a small giant, mighty and extraordinary. His body was covered with black and white tiger stripes, flickering with light. His limbs became thick and his palms were sharp like tiger claws, flickering with cold light and incomparably sharp. His entire person seemed to have turned into a fierce tiger murderer, emitting an aura that made people's hearts tremble. Lin Xian focused his gaze. He could naturally feel the terror of the other party. Taking a deep breath, he formed a seal with his right hand, and the spiritual energy in his body surged. Lin Xian had no intention of delaying either. He wanted to go all out. Die, you little thief! Tian Hu roared as he punched out with both fists. The wind from his fists was vast and mighty, forming a ferocious tiger that pounced forward. The ferocious black tiger filled up the entire space. With a swipe of its claws, it tore the void apart. Vermilion bird seal. Lin Xian snorted coldly. He formed a seal with his right hand and madly pressed it forward. Ming! A loud and clear voice rang out, and a fiery red figure flew out from the palm print, instantly filling the entire sky. That was a divine bird. Its entire body was covered in fiery red feathers. It was as if divine flames were jumping about, and a terrifying heat wave engulfed the entire room. What kind of bird is this? How can it be so terrifying? Could it be the divine vermilion bird? Someone said in a trembling voice, his eyes filled with fear. The vermilion bird soared into the sky like a sun, illuminating the 4 rooms. It let out a cry, flapped its wings, and rushed down. With raging flames, he charged towards the black tiger. Boom! The two beasts collided, and energy spread out like a tide. The black tiger roared, its roar shaking the sky. However, the vermilion bird was too powerful. Its body was surrounded by flames, burning everything. The vermilion bird seal had an extraordinary origin. Now that Lin Xian used the great dragon sword soul, it was incomparably powerful. In just a moment, the vermilion bird tore apart the black tiger phantom. Its body trembled, and it pounced towards Tian Hu. Whoosh! Tian Hu's expression changed, and he moved sideways. He did not dare to face the terrifying vermilion bird head-on. However, in the next moment, His expression changed again because Lin Xian appeared in front of him like a ghost. Shocked, Tian Hu kept changing his position, but he still underestimated Lin Xian. Lin Xian had an Earth-class movement technique, and his speed was incomparably terrifying. Now, he was following Tian Hu closely, and the vermilion bird seal in his hand fell crazily. Boom! Another vermilion bird flew out and pounced on Tian Hu. Black tiger protection. Tian Hu could not dodge, so he could only take it head-on. Black and white tiger stripes flickered on his body, and a black tiger phantom surrounded him, forming a solid defense. The vermilion bird phantom collided, emitting a sky-shaking sound, and the terrifying power directly pushed Tian Hu back. Whoosh! Lin Xian followed like a shadow, arriving behind Tian Hu in an instant, and the vermilion bird seal struck out again. Originally, Tian Hu was forced back, and his heart was extremely sullen. However, before he could react, he suffered another blow. This time, his black tiger protection was directly shattered. The terrifying power slammed into his body, causing him to vomit blood. Tian Hu was furious. He roared towards the sky, and the terrifying sound resounded throughout the 4 houses. However, he still could not escape the fate of being beaten. Another blow directly slammed him to the ground, smashing a bottomless black hole in the ground. The surrounding martial artists were stunned. Their city lord was actually being chased and beaten? This scene made them feel like they were dreaming. Lin Xian used the Great Dragon Sword Soul as the foundation and struck out the vermilion bird seal. Every strike could split mountains and split rivers. Even respected could not withstand it. 5 strikes, a total of 5 vermilion bird seals, all landed on Tian Hu's body. When the 6th strike landed, Tian Hu's arms were broken, and his bones exploded. His body went limp and fell to the ground. Everyone was terrified because they found that all the bones in Tian Hu's body were broken, and his eyes were dim. From the looks of it, he was not going to survive. Lin Xian retracted his palm and stood in the air. He knew that the battle was over because no one could withstand 6 strikes of the vermilion bird seal. Then, he looked down and pointed a finger. Tian Hu fell to the ground, his body trembling, and his heart was filled with fear. He never thought that he would be completely defeated in the hands of a youth. Moreover, it was a crushing defeat. He was unwilling, he roared, and he struggled. However, in the next moment, a sword light pierced through him. Plop! Tian Hu's body completely stopped moving. The surrounding martial artists were stunned, and then they screamed in horror. Their city lord was actually killed. To them, this was even more terrifying than the sky collapsing. Countless people were terrified and wanted to escape. However, Lin Xian coldly snorted, immediately suppressing everyone. Seeing Lin Xian descend from the air, everyone trembled. However, Lin Xian did not pay attention to those martial artists. He only chopped off Tian Hu's head, then put it away and disappeared into the air. After a long time, the people of the city lord's mansion heaved a sigh of relief and then sat on the ground. This terrifying scene shocked their hearts, and they would probably never forget it for the rest of their lives. It's over. The sky has changed. Countless people trembled. They knew that Flying Tiger City must have fallen into a riot. After a long time, a few half-step venerable realm martial artists recovered from the horror. They whispered to each other and decided to ask the Azure Red Society for help. The city lord was dead. This kind of thing was too big, and they could not control it at all. They could only report it. Moreover, Tian Hu was not only the city lord of Flying Tiger City, but also the branch leader of the Azure Red Society. Chapter 699. Tian Hu's death caused a huge commotion. The powerhouses of Soaring Tiger City discussed and quickly asked for help from the Azure Red Society. However, Lin Xian didn't know any of this. He was currently rushing to Broken Mountain City. Lin Xian had let the Azure Wolf Gang off because they were obedient. However, he didn't expect them to do something in secret. Lin Xian naturally wouldn't let them off this time. His body transformed into a ray of sword light and flew quickly on the Great Blood Plains. Broken Mountain City. The old man returned after sending the corpses of Steward Du and Steward Du to Soaring Tiger City. He naturally went back to report to Zhao Kuan. In the hall, Zhao Kuan laughed with satisfaction when he heard the news. Haha, well done. With Tianhu's help, that thief will definitely not be able to escape. Gang leader, then? The old man rubbed his hands and seemed to want to say something but hesitated. Oh, I almost forgot. Zhao Kuan immediately smiled when he saw the old man's expression. From today onward, you'll be the steward of the Azure Wolf Gang. Stewardly, you must work hard in the future. Yes, gang leader. The old man was excited. I'll definitely work for the Azure Wolf Gang wholeheartedly. Good, good, good. Both of them laughed loudly and were very satisfied in their hearts. However, at this moment, the roof above the hall suddenly broke open, and countless tiles turned into ashes. Swoosh! A black shadow shot in quickly like a black bolt of lightning. What's that? Zhao Kuan and Steward Du were shocked and looked up. Especially Zhao Kuan. He was extremely furious. Someone actually dared to behave atrociously in his territory. They must be tired of living. However, he was stunned in the next moment, because the black shadow fell to the ground and rolled a few times before it stabilized itself. Zhao Kuan also saw the black thing clearly. It was actually a head. It was covered in blood, and its eyes were filled with terror and despair. It was Tianhu's head. Seeing this, Zhao Kuan and Manager Li both jumped up in shock. Both of them were terrified and in disbelief. Tianhu was the city governor of Soaring Tiger City and a venerable realm powerhouse. In Flying Tiger City, no one could compete with him. Even the experts who passed by would not dare to offend Tian, who because they were afraid of the Cyan Red Society. However, such a valiant character had actually been beheaded and even brought here. Why was Tianhu's head here? Zhao Kuan was terrified, but he was also deeply puzzled. Could it be? When he saw Manager Li, he suddenly had a bad premonition. He had just sent someone to contact Tianhu, and the latter had died. Moreover, his head had been brought here. He would never believe that this had nothing to do with him. Gang leader, this has nothing to do with me, Manager Li said with a trembling voice. Could it be that brat? Manager Li exclaimed. Could it be that he's here for revenge? The more they thought about it, the more likely it seemed. Trembling, they raised their heads to look. Above them, a figure was walking in the air. Around him were streaks of sword chi, as if a sword god had descended. It's him. It's really him. Zhao Kuan looked at the descending figure and trembled uncontrollably. Hero, this has nothing to do with me. Manager Li screamed. Lin Xian's expression was cold as he slowly descended into the main hall. He looked at the two people below, his eyes filled with murderous intent. I said that if you were obedient, I would let you go. However, your actions have disappointed me. Lin Xian shook his head. Hero, we were wrong. Please give me another chance. Zhao Kuan was on the verge of tears. There was no other way. Even the powerful Tian who had been killed, let alone him. Now, he regretted it so much that his intestines turned green. Why did he think he was smart enough to send Manager Du's body away? If he had held back at that time, this would not have happened. Forgive you? Lin Xian sneered. Stop dreaming. I'm here today to deal with you. The Green Wolf Gang has no need to exist. What? Zhao Kuan's body trembled. Lin Xian's words were tantamount to announcing his death sentence. He breathed heavily, and a hint of madness appeared in his eyes. Then, he grabbed the old man next to him. Manager Li, it's time for you to contribute to the gang. After saying that, he waved his arm and threw the old man toward Lin Xian. At the same time, he used his speed and ran outside. Men, come quickly. Zhao Kuan roared like a madman. He knew that no one in Broken Mountain City was a match for Lin Xian. He only did that to buy some time for his subordinates. Lin Xian sneered disdainfully. He smashed the old man flying toward him with a punch, then pointed his finger. Whoosh! The light from his finger shone like a small sword. It streaked across the void and stabbed Zhao Kuan. Come! Zhao Kuan had just run into the main hall when his body froze. He slowly lowered his head and realized that his heart was transparent. Boom! His body fell to the ground, and he was deader than dead. Gang leader. The gang members who came from all directions screamed when they saw this scene. At this moment, Lin Xian slowly walked out in a black robe. He exuded a terrifying aura. Devil, devil. The surrounding martial artists saw this and fled frantically. Lin Xian flew into the sky and stood in the void. Then, he slammed his palm down. Boom! A golden palm condensed and fell rapidly like a mountain. Following it were countless bolts of lightning. In an instant, the main hall of the Green Wolf Gang was reduced to dust. A terrifying handprint appeared on the ground. Countless bolts of golden lightning struck in all directions. It was a terrifying sight. The headquarters of the Green Wolf Gang was reduced to ashes. After doing all this, Lin Xian turned and left. Not long after, a martial artist in a green robe appeared in the void. There was a red flower petal drawn on his chest. He looked at the destroyed main hall below with a cold glint in his eyes. "I'm a step too late," the mysterious man said softly. Then, he snorted coldly, and a powerful murderous aura flashed across his body. "How dare you offend the Green-Red Gang? Even if I have to go to the ends of the earth, I'll kill you." The middle-aged martial artist in a green robe transformed into a fighter and grabbed at the void. Then, his eyes flickered with a hint of ferocity. "Kid, you can't run away." Whoosh! He turned into a ray of green light and disappeared. In the Flying Tiger City, there was also a martial artist in a green robe. This martial artist was slightly older, but he had the same arrogance as the previous one. It seemed that he was also a member of the Green-Red Gang. The old man in a green robe sat in the middle of the main hall. His face was a little gloomy, causing the entire main hall to be filled with an oppressive feeling. "Send out everyone. We must find that kid." Reporting to the Red Flower Emissary, "That kid has an accomplice who has been captured by us. As long as we spread the news, we will definitely be able to lure him here." "Very good." The old man nodded in satisfaction. Then, he said eerily, "It seems that we have been too kind recently. Some people have already forgotten about the Green-Red Gang. How dare he kill a member of the Green-Red Gang? I will let him know how foolish his actions are." The old man's voice was low. A red flower petal appeared behind him, shining with a demonic red light. In the end, the entire main hall was filled with red petals. Chapter 700. After Lin Xian destroyed the Green Wolf Gang, he flew back to Flying Tiger City. This time, he was going to bring Yufei to Senmu College. However, as soon as he returned to Flying Tiger City, he learned that Yufei had been captured. This caused his little face to turn cold and gloomy. He had just killed the mayor of Flying Tiger City and thought that it would be enough to intimidate everyone. He did not expect that someone would dare to capture Yufei. This was a blatant provocation. Killing intent appeared in Lin Xian's eyes. He wondered if he had been too merciful. He had only killed the mayor and not the others. Oomph! With a cold snort, Lin Xian flew toward the mayor's mansion. Soon, he arrived above the mayor's mansion. However, his brows furrowed because he sensed a powerful aura below. A venerable? Who is it? Lin Xian was surprised. He did not expect another venerable to appear not long after Tianhu's death. This aura seemed to be even more powerful than Tianhu's. No wonder he dared to capture Yufei. It turned out that he had a new backer. Below, the old man in the green robe sat in the main hall with his eyes closed. Suddenly, he opened his eyes. The light in his eyes was like lightning, piercing through the void. Countless blood-colored petals danced in the hall. "You walked right into my trap? How arrogant!" The old man in the green robe sneered. Then, he waved his hand. The petals in the sky stopped and quickly flew upward. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Countless red lights flashed. Each petal was like the sharpest hidden weapon, turning into a line of blood in the air. In an instant, all the petals rushed toward Lin Xian. Lin Xian wanted to go down, but in the next moment, countless red lights flew out and pierced through the hall, stabbing toward him. The void trembled as if there were thousands of swords piercing into it. A terrifying aura sealed the entire sky. Danger! Lin Xian was shocked. Naturally, he could sense how terrifying this power was. His body flashed, and he dodged swiftly like a flickering shadow. Countless afterimages appeared. Lin Xian's speed was extremely fast. At the same time, he unleashed the vermilion bird seal, forming a burning vermilion bird that charged forward. The boundless sea of flames spread out, and the blazing energy interweaved to form a large net of flames, enveloping everything in front of it. Boom! Puff! When the two collided, a shockwave of energy erupted. The vast energy was like a real ocean wave, rampaging through the void, emitting a rumbling sound as it spread out in all directions. Sword radiance flickered in Lin Xian's eyes as the red lotus armor materialized on his body. He then drew his wind shadow sword and slashed out a sword radiance. It was as if a bolt of lightning had descended from the sky. The sword radiance was dazzling and dazzling. It split apart the red petals that filled the sky and tore open a vacuum. At the same time, his figure flashed as he dashed downwards. Boom! In the next moment, Lin Xian arrived at the main hall. He circulated his soul power and searched for Yu Fei's location. Soon, he had a clue. He released the Crimson Dragon and the Snow White Monkey to secretly rescue Yu Fei. Meanwhile, he stared at the green-robed elder below. "You two, hurry up." Lin Xian sent a telepathic message with a solemn expression. That was because he sensed a dangerous aura from the elder below. Second heaven of the honorable realm. Lin Xian took a deep breath. He did not expect a second heaven of the honorable realm to descend. Now that he had condensed his martial soul, his strength was equivalent to a first heaven of the honorable realm. In addition, his great dragon sword soul was an offensive saint technique, which gave him the strength to kill a first heaven of the honorable realm. However, it was still a little difficult for him to encounter a second heaven of the honorable realm. That was because every advancement in the honorable realm was extremely difficult, and every time he advanced, his strength would change tremendously. There were 9 heavens of the honorable realm, and each heavens was vastly different. A second heaven of the honorable realm could easily kill a first heaven of the honorable realm. However, Lin Xian had a saint artifact like the great dragon sword soul after all. If he went all out, he might be able to fight a little. Thinking of this, Lin Xian decided to go all out. Below, the green-robed elder was slightly dazed when he saw Lin Xian. Although he knew that the person who killed Tian who was a young man, he did not expect him to be so young. Moreover, what shocked him even more was that he sensed that Lin Xian's cultivation was only at the peak of the spirit-detecting realm. This made him extremely suspicious, and he even thought that Lin Xian was hiding his cultivation. However, he checked again and found that Lin Xian was indeed at the peak of the spirit-detecting realm, but he could sense the power of his martial soul. Imph. He's just a fake honorable realm who has condensed his martial soul. I really don't know what Tian who was doing to die at the hands of such a person. Kid, I don't know what despicable means you used to kill Tian who, but since you've killed him, you must be punished. The green-robed elder's voice was cold. How dare you kill the people of the Azure Red Society? I'll let you know what regret is. At the end of his sentence, countless red petals appeared around the elder and spun rapidly around him. It was dazzling and dazzling. The Azure Red Society. Lin Xian's pupils constricted. The people of the Azure Red Society had arrived. He had heard about the Azure Red Society before. It was a huge force that was even more powerful than the Flying Tiger City. One had to know that the Flying Tiger City and the Green Wolf Gang were only branches of the Azure Red Society. One could imagine how terrifying the other party was. Lin Xian was not a fool. He would not fight head-on. The priority now was to save Yu Fei and go to Sinmave College. Once he entered the honorable realm, the Azure Red Society would be nothing to him. For now, he only needed to delay for a while. At the thought of this, he waved the wind shadow sword and slashed out countless sword chi. The sword chi was dazzling like a terrifying sea of lightning. It was boundless, and the sky was filled with flashes of lightning. It made a dull sound, and the entire hall was shaking non-stop. How dare you? The green-robed elder sneered. He did not expect that Lin Xian would dare to take the initiative to attack with such a huge difference in strength. However, it was all in vain. He was a level 2 honorable and had absolute strength to suppress him. He believed that as long as he attacked, he would be able to take down Lin Xian quickly. The petals around him danced quickly. Each petal was crystal clear and extremely red, and they emitted a terrifying aura. Go! With a low shout, countless petals flew and formed a huge hand that slapped toward Lin Xian. The terrifying hand pushed horizontally, causing the air to explode and the void to tremble unsteadily. The top of the hall was covered by a red light like a wave of blood. It was monstrous and terrifying. Slash! Lin Xian controlled the sword chi and slashed at the huge hand formed by the blood-colored petals. Clang! The sound of metal clashing was heard. The petals danced in the air, and the sword chi surged. Instantly, the top of the hall was split open. Boom! In the end, the terrifying energy blew the entire roof away, revealing the blue sky. He can actually block it? The green-robed elder below was surprised. Even a level 1 honorable could not block his palm, but this fake honorable in front of him blocked it? Interesting. The green-robed elder sneered. I hope you won't disappoint me. Then, he waved his sleeve, and the situation above changed again. Those petals rotated and emitted light. They danced quickly, and soon, the huge blood-colored hand disappeared and was replaced by a ferocious blood dragon. Roar! The sound was like thunder, and it stirred up waves of blood that drowned the sky. The blood dragon was even more powerful than the huge hand just now. Chapter 701. It was a crimson blood dragon, and its huge body filled the entire sky. Even the void seemed to be collapsing. A sharp and terrifying aura assaulted Lin Xian's senses, causing him to tense up. Is this the power of a second heaven supremacy? It's really powerful. Lin Xian gasped. This power had completely surpassed that of a first heaven supremacy. Fortunately, he had the red lotus armor and dragon sword soul, so he could withstand it. Otherwise, another first heaven supremacy would not be able to withstand it. Roar! The flood dragon roared and charged at Lin Xian with its huge body. Wild wind slash. Lin Xian did not dare to be careless and used the wild wind slash that he had just comprehended. He slashed out with his sword, and a strong wind blew. Waves of air surged and whistled through the sky. Everyone watched in horror as a huge sword chi storm gathered in the sky. In the blink of an eye, it became huge. The violent wind blew everything away, and more than half of the buildings in the City Lord Manor were destroyed. The scene was too terrifying. The flying tiger troop in the City Lord Manor trembled as if they were facing a Blood Realm storm. Lin Xian's sword move was comprehended from the Blood Realm storm, and it was extremely violent. The sword chi storm blew past like thousands of beasts roaring. It shook the space and charged toward the blood dragon. Rumble! The huge storm and the ferocious blood dragon collided in the sky, creating a terrifying storm. Lin Xian did not stop after slashing down with his sword. He formed a seal with his left hand and used the vermilion bird seal. The divine vermilion bird was born from fire. It was like a scorching sun in the sky as it charged toward the blood dragon. Lin Xian used 2 killer moves to fight against a second heaven supremacy. In an instant, the situation was in a stalemate. What? He actually withstood it? The martial artists below were shocked and could not believe it. The red flower emissary's face darkened, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. He snorted and prepared to attack with all his might. At that moment, a loud laugh came from the sky. Haha, kid, you are indeed here. How dare you kill someone from the Azure Red Gang? Let's see where you can run to this time. The voice was like a terrifying thunder god. It was deafening. It's the green flower emissary. At that moment, all the martial artists in the City Lord Manor looked at the sky. Not good. Lin Xian's expression changed drastically. He could feel a powerful aura rapidly approaching. Another second-level venerable. He furrowed his brows. The situation was terrible, and he couldn't resist at all. Fortunately, the dark red godly dragon and the dark red godly dragon rescued Yu Fei. Go! Without hesitation, Lin Xian grabbed Yu Fei and soared into the sky. Kid, where do you think you're going? Red Flower Emissary was furious. How could she allow Lin Xian to escape? Red flowers danced in the air, forming a large net that covered the sky. At the same time, The figure in the sky also reached out a terrifying palm that seemed to cover the entire sky. Lin Xian let out a long whistle as the wind and thunder wings appeared on his back. They were about 100 meters long. With a flap of the wings, he turned into a bolt of lightning and disappeared in a flash. Whoosh! Boom! The red net and the sky-covering hand missed their target. Immediately, two furious roars were heard. Brat, no matter where you run to, I will kill you. Humph. Azure Red Association, I will remember this. I will pay you back 100 times for what you did today. Lin Xian's voice reverberated in the air. All the martial artists in Flying Tiger City were shocked, and the two second-level venerables quickly chased after him. However, after half a day, they still lost him. The two of them roared crazily and destroyed the surrounding mountains and rivers. Lin Xian used his Earth-class movement technique and wind and thunder wings to successfully shake off the two of them. He stopped in a dense forest. Blurg. As soon as he landed, Yu Fei bent over and vomited. No, I'm going to die. This is too exciting. Yu Fei sat on the ground, his legs trembling. He was only a small martial artist in the middle stage of the spirit-detecting realm. He had never experienced this kind of speed. He almost fainted just now. I'm sorry that you've been dragged into this because of me, Lin Xian apologized. It's okay. Yu Fei shook his head and then stared at Lin Xian. You look excited. Big brother, I didn't expect you to be so strong. You are actually a venerable. Yu Fei will follow you from now on. You don't have to do this. Lin Xian smiled bitterly. No, you are a man. You saved my life, so you are my benefactor. Yu Fei patted his chest and said, From today onwards, my life is yours. But I am going to Sinma College. You shouldn't be able to get in. Besides, don't you still have a job? Lin Xian asked. What job? Every day, I deliver goods in the Scarlet Plains. It's not interesting at all. Yu Fei curled his lips. Every few days, there will be storms. If this goes on, it will be a waste of life. Then how is it not a waste of life? Of course it is to cultivate martial arts, build a force, and dominate the blood domain. Yu Fei's face was full of hope. Brother Xian, you are so strong. Have you never thought of developing in the blood domain? It's rare to see such a young venerable. I think that in a few decades, you will be able to reach the top of the blood venerable list. At that time, you might be able to replace those martial venerables. Lin Xian pondered. Ever since he came to the Tianwu continent, he had plans to build his own force. In the Sand region, he had tried it. When he left, he even asked Nangongseng and Marulong to develop in the Quicksand City. He was no longer an ignorant child. After seeing so many things, he knew the importance of a force to a warrior. Moreover, after entering the venerable realm, the resources needed were even more precious. It was difficult to obtain enough with one's own strength. If there was a force to handle it, it would save a lot of trouble. Moreover, this was for the sake of his family in the future. He had left the Great Xia for 3 years. In these 3 years, he had always had one goal, which was to save his family. In the past, he thought that condensing a martial soul was enough. However, when he met the Black Dragon sect leader, he changed his mind. The sect leader's strength was too terrifying. He was very close to the King realm. If he rashly returned, not only would he not be able to save his family, he might be captured by the sect leader and seize the great dragon sword soul. Therefore, he had to have enough strength to return to the Tianan region and save his family. At this point, Lin Xian had determined 2 goals. First, wait for the Palace of Gods of War to open and ask about his father's whereabouts. Second, increase his strength and go back to save his family. All of this required strength. Therefore, he planned to enter Sinma College to improve himself. At the same time, he would secretly build a force in the blood region and slowly develop it. What are your specialties? Lin Xian asked. Hearing this, Yu Fei was delighted. He knew that this was a test. Brother Xian, although I'm not strong, I'm very familiar with the blood region. Moreover, I'm good at gathering information. I can definitely help you. All right, let's go to Sinma College first. When the time comes, you can stay in a nearby city. We'll discuss it later. Lin Xian said. Damn, kid. You want to build a force? The crimson dragon poked its head out, its face full of excitement. I raise my dragon claw in agreement. When the time comes, I'll dominate the entire blood region and all the resources will be mine. The crimson dragon laughed. That way, I'll be able to recover very quickly. All right, stop dreaming. Lin Xian knocked it. You want to dominate the blood region? Be careful not to be captured and used for alchemy. Chapter 702. Yu Fei was indeed a survival expert. Relying on his experience, Lin Xian avoided several dangers. The two of them rushed all the way and finally arrived at Windy City. Windy City was a huge city and also an important transportation hub. It was also the only way to get to Sinmu College. Therefore, it was incomparably prosperous. Moreover, according to Yu Fei's introduction, this city was different from Flying Tiger City and other cities. It was not dominated by a single power. Instead, there were many powers coexisting in the city. Thinking about it, it was impossible for such an important city to be controlled by a single power. After paying the entrance fee, the two of them walked into the city. Originally, Lin Xian planned to rest and replenish his supplies before leaving. However, when he was eating, he heard news about the auction. This made him somewhat moved. He had many things on him that needed to be dealt with, and this auction was undoubtedly a good opportunity. Brother Xian, you want to participate in the auction? Yu Fei asked. Yes, I have some things to sell. I want to see if there are any good things. Why don't you wait for a while? In any case, this place is not far from Sinmu College. You can come again when the time comes. Oh, why? In 3 months, there will be a super auction here. It will be very large. Yu Fei said, in previous super auctions, there will always be good things coming out. In the past, there have been 2 Earth-rank martial arts here. Earth-rank martial arts. Lin Xian was surprised. As his cultivation increased, he realized more and more how powerful and precious Earth-rank martial arts were. This kind of martial arts was only mastered by the superpowers. It was impossible for ordinary people to master it. However, the super auction here provided an opportunity. Earth-rank martial arts were very rare. If it really appeared, those Blood Realm experts would definitely go crazy. In 3 months, okay. Lin Xian nodded. He decided to come again in 3 months. After eating, the two of them rested for the night and set off again. This time, they did not enter the city. Instead, they set off directly for Sinmu College. Finally, they arrived at Skypool City. Skypool City was even larger than Windy City and was also ancient. No one seemed to remember when it was built. It was as if the Skypool City was created when the Blood Domain was created. There was another reason why Skypool City was so famous, and that was because the city had one of the most famous colleges in the Sky Martial continent, Sinmu College. Sinmu College was huge, occupying almost half of Tianzi City. It was like a colossus, standing tall on the ground, with no end in sight. Sinmu College was the only force in Skypool City. The other forces in the Blood Realm could not enter, nor did they dare to. There had once been an 8th-level venerable who had caused trouble here, and he had been killed in the end. From then on, Heavenly Pool City had become a forbidden area of the Blood Realm. However, it had become a paradise for the geniuses of the Sky Martial continent. It was precisely because of the strength and safety of Skypool City and Sinmu College that countless geniuses from all over the continent gathered here. Lin Xian came at the right time, because in a few days, it would be the day of the Academy selection. As long as they passed the test, they would be able to enter the Academy to cultivate. Thus, Skypool City was currently very lively, with young martial artists everywhere. Lin Xian and Yu Fei walked on the streets, looking at the passers-by, and praised him in their hearts. Brother Xian, this is my first time coming to Skypool City. The martial artists here are so strong. Yu Fei had a face full of envy. Lin Xian was also surprised. They were indeed very strong. In just a short while, he had already seen a few martial artists who were not weaker than him. The aura on their bodies was abnormally strong, and even had a faint martial spirit aura. As expected of Sinmu College, to actually attract so many young experts, Lin Xian was excited. Competing with geniuses was the greatest joy. Sorry, it's full. It's full. After asking a few ins, They were all told that they were full, and there were no extra rooms. Not only Lin Xian, but the martial artists who came later also did not have a place to stay. I've heard of a place where there should be a place to stay. Yu Fei thought for a long time, and said slowly. However, it doesn't seem easy to stay in a room there. Not easy? Lin Xian was puzzled. Brother Xian, you'll know when you get there. Soon, Lin Xian arrived at the place that Yu Fei mentioned. Windsweeping Building was not just a building, but a huge and luxurious inn. It had everything from ordinary rooms to exquisite independent courtyards. At this moment, Windsweeping Building was surrounded by countless martial artists. Seeing this scene, Lin Xian sighed. With so many people, even if there were empty rooms in the past, they were probably gone now. Looking at the crowded and noisy scene, Lin Xian found it funny. He found it hard to imagine that so many young geniuses would quarrel over a room. Bang! A low voice interrupted Lin Xian's fantasy. He looked up and saw the crowd in front of Windsweeping Building disperse. Several figures flew out and fell to the ground. Are you deaf? I said there's no room, so there's no room. How dare you rush me? The young and beautiful lady boss walked out with her hands on her hips. She was as arrogant as a princess. You dare to hit us? The young men got up from the ground with indignant looks on their faces. It was too shameful. They were geniuses and outstanding talents, yet they couldn't even rent a room, and were even thrown out. Moreover, there were so many people watching. How could they survive in the future? The young men were so angry that their faces turned pale. They wanted to find a hole to hide in. Among them, one of the young men looked at the young and beautiful lady boss with a murderous aura. Oh, you dare to hit us? The young and beautiful lady boss sneered. Why don't you try? Then, she took out a sign. Open your dog eyes and take a good look. This is Senmu College's examination room. If you want to cause trouble here, you can forget about entering Senmu College for the rest of your life. Hearing this, the young man trembled. He retracted his aura and turned to leave with a gloomy face. Humph! A piece of trash dares to behave atrociously here. The young and beautiful lady boss clapped her hands and turned to walk inside. At this moment, a voice sounded. Lady boss room. The young and beautiful lady boss looked impatient. She turned around and was about to shout coldly. However, she suddenly saw the jade pendant on the young man's waist and smiled charmingly. Sky Room 15. You're so lucky. This is the only room left. What? There's still room? What's going on? Isn't there no more? Yeah. Why can he stay here but we can't? F*CK. Even if it's Senmu College's in, you can't be so arrogant. This is not fair. The group of people was dissatisfied. Humph, a bunch of idiots. What do you know? The young lady boss snorted. She pointed at the young man's jade pendant and said, See, the immortal martial jade pendant. He's a quasi-immortal martial disciple who passed the internal test. Can you compare? What? He passed the internal test. Everyone was shocked and looked at the young man in disbelief. Senmu College's examination was very strict. Although these people were all geniuses, only 10% of them could pass the examination. The internal test was even stricter. The passing rate was only 1%. Chapter 703. The young man in front of them had actually passed the internal test, which shocked everyone. The young and beautiful lady boss sneered with her hands on her hips. So, are you convinced? If you're a candidate for the internal test, you'll also have a room. The crowd was not satisfied. Are only candidates allowed to live here? That's unfair. That's right. We might also enter Senmu College. You can't treat us like this. Fair? The young and beautiful lady boss turned around. Okay, I'll give you fairness. There's only one room left, and it's a high-end suite, Storm Courtyard. Come and stay here if you can. Storm Courtyard. The crowd was surprised. Many of them wanted to retreat because Storm Courtyard was not an ordinary courtyard. It was the best courtyard in Windsweeping Tower. Not only did one have to pay an expensive rent to live here, but one also needed to be strong and powerful. In other words, ordinary people could not live here at all. However, the martial artists who came here were all geniuses with powerful families behind them. After some consideration, they decided to live in Storm Courtyard. Lin Xian stood where he was. After learning about Storm Courtyard, he was slightly surprised. Then he shook his head slightly and did not intend to compete. Lady Boss, I'll take Storm Courtyard. You'll take it? How arrogant. Who are you? Lady Boss, keep Storm Courtyard for me. Stop fighting. It's mine. The crowd chattered and quarreled again. The young and beautiful Lady Boss crossed her arms and stood in the shop, looking coldly at them. Suddenly, a young voice sounded. Stop fighting. It's full. Storm Courtyard is gone. Gone? The crowd vomited blood and shouted in dissatisfaction. Didn't you say there was more? Why is it gone? Lady Boss, what's wrong? However, before the Lady Boss could speak, a young man of 14 or 15 years old appeared in front of the crowd. The young man was wearing exquisite clothes and said with a childish face, because Storm Courtyard has just been booked by my young master. Who does your young master think he is? How dare he beat us to it? Ask him to give up the room. Otherwise, don't blame us for being rude. Kid, it's too dangerous here. It's not something you can get involved in. Get out of here. The crowd looked unhappy and shouted coldly. Hearing these people insulting the young master, the young man's face tightened and anger appeared in his eyes. He said angrily, hurry up and apologize, or don't blame me for being rude. You're welcome? Everyone laughed. How can you not be polite? Don't tell me you want to fight? They didn't put the youth in their eyes at all. It was no wonder. These people were all geniuses and were extremely proud. Not to mention a young man. Even if they were geniuses of the same generation, they would not be convinced at all. However, in the next moment, they were all stunned. It was because the young man in front of them suddenly formed a seal with his small hands, releasing a dazzling light that pushed forward. Bang! Those arrogant martial artists were caught off guard and were hit by the light, immediately retreating. Whoosh! For a moment, a vacuum appeared in front of wind-sweeping tower. Everyone was shocked, and a trace of fear appeared in their eyes. A 14 or 15-year-old child was actually able to repel them. Especially those who were hit, their faces were filled with disbelief. However, this expression was quickly replaced by anger. Brat, you dare to attack? Do you want to die? Being defeated by a young man in front of everyone made them feel ashamed. If news of this spread, they wouldn't be able to live anymore. In the distance, Lin Xian was also surprised. The attack just now wasn't very powerful, but it was very exquisite. It could be said that the young man had completely relied on a profound and exquisite martial arts technique to repel everyone. Interesting. I didn't expect Skypool City to have so many experts. Lin Xian was excited. A young man was already so amazing. How powerful would the young man be? In front of him, someone couldn't help but attack. The wind from the palm was so strong that it seemed to tear the void apart. However, the young man was disdainful. He stepped forward and kept dodging, calmly avoiding the palm every time. What? Everyone was shocked. This was once again beyond their expectations. However, what surprised them was what happened next. They saw the young man continuously forming seals in the void, forming a blue treasure bottle and raising it above his head. Boom! The mouth of the bottle was facing down, and a ray of light shot out. The light was vast and mighty like the Milky Way, surging in the void and crashing into the other party in the blink of an eye. Poof! With one move, the other party was sent flying. Then, the young man shot out another ray of Milky Way water in front of Windsweep Inn. My young master has booked Windsweep Inn. Does anyone have a problem with that? The young voice sounded again. Everyone was silent. The battle just now had shocked them. That exquisite footwork, that mysterious hand seal. Every one of them left them astonished. The young man's cultivation wasn't very high, but his strength was terrifying. The young master behind him must be even more powerful. No one dared to take the risk because they weren't confident. Therefore, there was a short period of silence. The young man was satisfied. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. He turned around and was about to pay the room fee. However, at that moment, a clear voice came from afar again. Windsweep in his hours. Everyone was shocked and turned around. Who was it that dared to attack them? Lin Xian also looked over curiously. He saw 7 figures appear at the end of the street and were walking toward them. They walked very slowly. Every time they took a small step, they covered hundreds of meters. It was as if they had shrunk the ground into an inch. In the blink of an eye, they arrived in front of everyone. Only then did everyone see them clearly. 7 young and beautiful girls appeared in front of everyone. They were beautiful and had impressive figures. They wore long white dresses with a red leaf embroidered on their sleeves. They didn't stop and walked directly toward Windsweep Inn. "Brother Xian, let's go and take a look." Yu Fei was excited when he saw the 7 beauties. Lin Xian nodded, and the 2 of them walked forward. The martial artists around them also surrounded them. "Lady boss, I want a room." The last girl walked out and said in a sweet voice. The young and beautiful lady boss glanced at the red leaf embroidered on their sleeves and laughed. "What a coincidence. The last Windsweep Inn has been booked by my young master." The young man interrupted the lady boss before she could finish her sentence. "Your young master?" The young girls laughed as if they had heard something funny. In Tianmu continent, there are only 4 people who can be called young masters. As far as we know, those 4 people won't come here. Who does your young master think he is? How dare he call himself a young master? The 7 of them laughed and didn't put the young man in their eyes. "You." The young man was so angry that his face turned pale. "Damn it! How dare you humiliate my young master? Get lost." The young girl who had asked earlier said coldly, "You don't have the right to speak here. Ask your young master to come here." Everyone was stunned. The 7 young girls in front of them were very powerful. They actually ignored the young man. One had to know that many people had been beaten back by that young man earlier. Chapter 704. Her cold voice caused the surroundings to become silent. The young man's face turned pale. He clenched his fists and clenched his index finger. The spiritual energy in his body surged. "You want to fight?" The young girl smiled. "I advise you to give up on that idea. Otherwise, you will die a miserable death." The young man didn't believe her. He quickly formed a seal with his hands. However, halfway through, his body stiffened. A line of blood appeared on his cheek, and traces of blood flowed out. The young man was terrified. Although the wound wasn't deep, he didn't see the trajectory of the opponent's attack. If the attack was aimed at his throat, he might have already died. The surrounding martial artists were even more shocked. Most of them didn't see it clearly. Only a few experts understood. "Brother Xian, what's going on?" Yu Fei was puzzled. "Maple leaves," Lin Xian said. The wound was caused by the maple leaves. He saw the scene clearly. The mysterious young girl had used a maple leaf to cut the young man's cheek. Her speed and strength were controlled accurately. It could be said that if she wanted to kill the young man, it would be as easy as blowing off dust. The young man was terrified. He raised his hands in the air and didn't know what to do. At this moment, a pair of strong hands supported him. "Young master." The young man was surprised. Everyone was shocked and looked over. Lin Xian also looked up curiously. A young man in a blue and white robe appeared. There was a jade flute on his waist. His expression was cold. "It was you who injured my servant?" The young man in the blue and white robe asked. "It was me." The young girl sneered. "Remember, my name is Xiaofeng." The young man's voice was calm. "If you hear this name in the future, take a detour. You are courting death." Suyu shouted. She raised her hand and threw out 2 maple leaves. It was so fast that most people didn't see it clearly. Buzz, buzz. However, Xiaofeng caught it with his hands. The 2 maple leaves trembled between his fingers. They wanted to escape, but they were powerless. "How dare you be so arrogant with such little strength? Go back and train for another 2 years. Hearing this, Suyu was enraged. She shouted and thrust her palms out like butterflies. A terrifying and vast power gushed out. She waved her palms, which were extremely dazzling. Everyone was shocked. They didn't expect the 2 of them to really fight. The people of Wind Sweeping Building were dissatisfied. They wanted to scold them. At this moment, another young girl walked out and threw down maple leaves. "This is Red Leaf Valley's business. Unrelated people, scram." Her voice wasn't loud, but everyone heard it. Red Valley. It's them. Many people took a breath and quickly retreated. This was a great power that was incomparably powerful. Moreover, their way of doing things was extreme. Just like just now, if someone tried to stop them after they scattered the red leaves, they would become the target of their slaughter. In the past, there were supremacies who broke their rules and were all killed. Su Yu and Xiao Feng were fighting. Both of them controlled their power and didn't affect Wind-Sweeping Tower, as if they were worried about something. Su Yu was knocked back. She clutched her chest in pain. You dare to hurt me? Go. Su Yu snorted coldly. Suddenly, the 7 people attacked together. Stubborn. Xiao Feng coldly snorted. However, Xiao Feng dealt with it calmly. However, the people around him weren't so lucky, especially the young page boy. He was sent flying by the energy. The young page boy screamed. His body was sent flying like a meteor. Xiao Feng was furious. His body swayed, but he was blocked by the 7 people's formation. Seeing the young page boy flying, everyone dispersed. No one dared to catch him. Red Leaf Valley's warning was still echoing in their ears. Red Leaf Valley was vicious. They even dared to kill venerables. Therefore, no one dared to catch him. Everyone dispersed, and a vacuum appeared. However, there were 2 people who were exceptions. They were Lin Xian and Yu Fei. Yu Fei was afraid. He wanted to retreat, but seeing that Lin Xian didn't move, he could only stand still. Lin Xian looked at the young page boy flying over and sighed. He waved his sleeve and caught him. Thank you. The young page boy's face was pale. What? Everyone was shocked. They looked at this scene in disbelief. There was actually someone who dared to interfere in Red Leaf Valley's matters. Did he want to die? The young and beautiful lady boss was also surprised. She stared at Lin Xian and suddenly frowned as if she had discovered something. The most furious ones were the 7 girls from Red Leaf Valley. One of them even shot out several maple leaf concealed weapons at Lin Xian and the young page boy. The young page boy trembled. He couldn't see the trajectory at all. Everyone sneered as they watched the show. They thought that Lin Xian was dead meat. Yu Fei also stood behind Lin Xian nervously. Lin Xian, on the other hand, frowned slightly. With a wave of his sleeve, he formed a whirlpool of energy and collected the maple leaf concealed weapon. What? Nothing. Everyone was stunned. They realized that they had underestimated Lin Xian. The people from Red Leaf Valley were also stunned. At this moment, Xiao Feng shouted angrily. A powerful aura erupted from his body and forced the 7 people back. The 2 sides stopped and faced each other. Xiao Feng's body flashed and instantly appeared in front of Lin Xian. Brother, thank you for your help. Xiao Feng said. How should I address you? Lin Xian. Brother Lin, I will remember this favor. Chapter 705. Lin Xian's unexpected acquisition of the Tempest Courtyard made him the target of envy. The people from the Red Leaf Valley especially wanted to attack him. However, they were stopped by the young and beautiful lady boss. The lady boss was very forceful and chased away the people from the Red Leaf Valley. The 7 beautiful girls looked unfriendly, but they seemed to be very wary of the Tempest Courtyard, so they did not attack. However, before they left, Su Yu warned in a cold voice, Brat, you dare to steal from my master. You're dead meat. Master? Everyone was shocked. These 7 outstanding women were actually servants. Just how powerful was their master? Could he be a prodigy from the Red Leaf Valley? Someone guessed. However, no matter what, they all thought that Lin Xian was dead meat. Lin Xian pursed his lips. Since he had already offended them, there was no need to be polite. Sure, we'll talk about this after you enter the academy. Then, he ignored the 7 mad women and walked into the Tempest Courtyard with Yu Fei. Only a group of envious rabbits was left behind. The Tempest Courtyard was very large. It was equivalent to a small mansion. There were landscape gardens, pavilions, and towers. There was even a green lake in the center. It was very beautiful. Lin Xian and Yu Fei were each given a guest room and prepared to rest. However, the young and beautiful lady boss came not long after. She carried a few dishes and a pot of spirit wine into Lin Xian's room. The lady boss was very young. Lin Xian estimated that she was only 20 years old. Her snow-like skin was smoother than silk. Her long hair was black, and her big eyes were watery. When she smiled, it was as if she could speak. The two sweet dimples on her cheeks made her even more adorable. Lin Xian was stunned when he saw this. He did not expect the lady boss to personally deliver food. Moreover, combined with the previous incident, he felt that the lady boss seemed to want to get close to him. This made him wary. "How is it? Is your stay comfortable?" The young and beautiful lady boss asked. "Come, try the dishes I cooked." "What, do you want me to feed you?" Lin Xian. Finally, he sighed. "Tell me, what's your purpose?" "Purpose?" The young and beautiful lady boss blinked. "Why do you think so? You're willing to offend Red Leaf Valley to give me the storm courtyard. I'm afraid it's not just because of interest, right? Sigh, you really don't have a conscience. I let you stay in a luxurious house, and you still suspect others." The young and beautiful lady boss lightly snorted. "But to be honest, it really isn't because of Red Leaf Valley." "Then why?" "Because I've seen you before." "Where?" "In a painting. I didn't believe it at first. I didn't think that you really existed." Lin Xian. He didn't quite understand and wanted to ask for clarification. However, the young and beautiful lady boss didn't seem to give him a chance. "All right, enjoy your meal. I have to go. Windsweeping Restaurant is very busy. There are many things that need to be taken care of." With that, she stood up and walked away, swaying her hips. She pushed the door open and saw Yu Fei walking towards her. The young and beautiful lady boss giggled and then left. Yu Fei was stunned. Then, as if he understood something, he revealed a strange smile. He ran into the room and closed the door. He said mysteriously, "Big brother Xian, I admire you. You got it done so quickly." "Done? What did you get done?" Lin Xian didn't understand. "Done with the lady boss. Don't tell me that you two aren't having an affair. I won't believe it even if you beat me to death." Yu Fei had an "I know" look. Lin Xian. In the following days, Lin Xian stayed in the storm courtyard to cultivate, while Yu Fei went out to gather information. Although Yu Fei's strength was average, he was very good at gathering information. Soon, he returned to Lin Xian's room. "Big brother Xian, I got it." "Oh." Lin Xian opened his eyes. "Let's hear it." Senmove College's assessment is divided into 3 categories: aptitude, strength, and willpower. Those who pass these 3 categories can enter Senmove College. If you're not a disciple in the internal test, the normal assessment rate is usually 1 in 10. Moreover, this is under the condition that all of you are geniuses. After listening to Yu Fei's explanation, Lin Xian understood. To put it bluntly, Senmove College wanted geniuses among geniuses. "How many days do we start?" 3 days. Also, according to my sources, there are many more geniuses this time than before. It seems that there's something in the school that's attracting them. But I don't know what it is exactly. "More people?" Lin Xian rubbed his chin. "You've already asked enough. We'll talk about the rest after I enter the school." After that, Lin Xian gave Yu Fei a sum of spirit stones to let him stay in Tianzi City. Of course, he didn't stay in the storm courtyard. It was too expensive. Even Lin Xian felt pained by the price of the house. During these 3 days, Lin Xian wasn't the only one collecting information. Everyone else was doing the same. Moreover, some of the experts were not only collecting information about the assessment, but also about their opponents. Windsweeping Tower, Luofeng Courtyard. A beautiful figure in white sat by the lake like a fairy. Beside her was a cute girl and a middle-aged scholar. In front of her was a half-kneeling man in black. The woman in white was Morong Qingqing. She was also in Tianzi City. "How's the investigation going?" "Miss, it's done. The few powerful people this time are all staying in Windsweeping Tower." Xiao Li from the Floating Life Courtyard. He's a genius from the Sand region. He's good with sabers. He's estimated to be a first-layer venerable. Lan Bai from the Lingyun Courtyard. He's good with poison. He once poisoned a venerable to death. He seems to be related to the 10,000 Poison sect. Shun Yaotian from the Sunset Courtyard. He's a first-layer venerable. He's a disciple of the Shin family. As for the Storm Courtyard, this person is very special. It's said that he was randomly chosen by the lady boss when he was fighting with others in the Red Leaf Valley. Randomly chosen? Murong Qingqing muttered. Those who can enter this place are no ordinary people. What did you find out? I haven't found anything yet. I only know that he's called Lin Xian. Lin Xian? Murong Qingcheng was stunned. Then, she asked, is he a young man? Yes. I didn't expect him to come here. Murong Qingcheng muttered. Then, she said, very well. You may leave. Yes. The man in black left respectfully. He probably came to Sinmu College because he heard that the Palace of Ares was closed, the Wild Palm scholar said. That despicable guy. I curse him that he can't pass the assessment. Linger huffed. Murong Qingcheng was very happy. This is great. After entering the college, there will be plenty of opportunities. I don't believe that he can reject this time. Miss, although Lin Xian is exceptionally talented, we still have to prioritize that matter, the Wild Palm scholar reminded her. Don't worry, I know. Murong Qingcheng nodded. If the news is true, it'll be too shocking. No matter what, I have to fight for that qualification. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Sinmu College's assessment had begun. The first round tested one's aptitude. It mainly examined one's physique, bloodline, talent, and other congenital conditions. In this aspect, Lin Xian's talent was outstanding. His comprehension was extremely high. In addition, his physique had been nourished by the Earth's spirit liquid and was relatively strong. However, in the aspect of bloodline, he was ordinary. In fact, compared to those martial artists with bloodline power, he was a little ordinary. However, overall, he passed the aptitude test. Chapter 706. In a square in Tianzi City, there were many strange devices and arrays. Next to them were the official disciples of Sinmu College. In the middle were a few elders. They were the chief examiners for the assessment. They looked at the dense crowd in the square with a satisfied expression. There are more people than expected this time. Yeah, I hope there are some good seedlings. It's best if they have the power of bloodline. The elders whispered to each other. They were looking forward to the assessment. Those who were in charge of the array formation were the disciples. Their chins were light as they looked around arrogantly. The young male disciples frowned in dissatisfaction. However, they could only endure it because of their status. The female disciples, on the other hand, were staring at the official disciples with infatuation. Some of them even kept throwing flirtatious glances at them. Brother Yang, I heard that Goddess Morong is here too. Is that true? Among the official disciples, many of them swept their gazes over the crowd. They were still young, and it was the time for them to fall in love. In addition, Murong Qingcheng was too famous. Hence, they were very curious. Yeah. The young man who was called Brother Yang nodded slightly. He scanned the crowd and stopped at a spot. Yin Xingyang's lips curled into a smile that he thought was dashing. That was Murong Qingcheng. The surrounding disciples were excited when they heard that. They looked over and saw a beautiful white figure in the crowd. She was as beautiful as a fairy. She's so beautiful. The rumors are true. She's the most beautiful woman in the world. Whoever gets her attention will be blessed by 3 lifetimes. With Brother Yang around, we'll definitely get her. The surrounding disciples complimented. Kid, I like your sweet mouth, Yin Xingyang said with a smile. He looked at Murong Qingcheng with a face full of adoration. He had taken a liking to such a beautiful woman at first sight. At the same time, he swore to himself that he would get her. Lin Xian also saw Murong Qingcheng. However, he did not walk over. Instead, he nodded and greeted her from afar. Lin Xian would definitely become a public enemy if he walked over. He did not want to get into trouble. At the same time, he saw Xiao Li and Shen Yaotian. Lin Xian also greeted the former. As for the latter, he completely ignored him. Shen Yaotian gritted his teeth in anger. His eyes were gloomy as he stared at Lin Xian, his killing intent surfacing. Now that he'd successfully advanced into the Exalt realm, he was absolutely confident in his ability to kill Lin Xian. Brat, I'll let you be arrogant for a while. Once we enter the academy, see how I'll kill you. Boom. The bell rang, and everyone fell silent. At this moment, The elder of Sinmu College stepped forward and announced loudly, "The assessment begins. The first aptitude test begins." Then, everyone started the test according to the order. The test was divided into 10 groups, and each group had 3 light pillars, respectively testing talent, constitution, and bloodline. Every test had a score of 1 to 9. Since most people didn't have bloodline power, they passed with a score of 12 or more. However, the higher one score, the more attention they would receive from the academy. Talent, 5 points, physique, 6 points, bloodline, 0 points, failed. Next, the examiner said coldly. Hearing that, the examiner left dejectedly. Talent, 7 points, physique, 6 points, bloodline, 0 points, passed. Talent, 9 points, physique, 9 points. Lin Xian placed his palm on the first 2 light pillars, which immediately caused the examiner to exclaim. They had never seen someone with a score of 9 points, and this sound attracted everyone's attention. Many examiners looked toward Lin Xian. At the same time, the elders also looked over curiously. Talent and physique, a score of 9 points. This kind of martial artist is really rare. Looks like another prodigy has appeared. I wonder how his bloodline is like? Another elder asked with concern. Everyone also wanted to know and paid attention. Among them, Murong Qingqing's white clothes fluttered, and there was a trace of anticipation in his expression. Shun Yaoyin's eyes were gloomy, and he kept cursing in his heart. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, Lin Xian placed his hand on the 3rd light pillar. However, in the next moment, the examiner was stunned. This was because Lin Xian's bloodline was 0 points. Bloodline, 0 points. What? 0 points. So he doesn't have the power of bloodline. Many people heaved a sigh of relief. A few elders showed a trace of disappointment. It seemed that they valued the power of bloodline very much. Xin Yaotian sneered, "Indeed, he doesn't have the power of bloodline. Humph, what a piece of trash. Let's see how you compete with me." Yin Qingyang also shook his head, and his expression returned to normal. To be honest, when Lin Xian displayed a score of 9 points, he was very nervous. However, now that he saw that Lin Xian's bloodline was 0 points, he was relieved. He was a genius, but he would never become a top genius. This was his evaluation of Lin Xian. The power of bloodline was very important and had a nature-defying effect. Especially as one's cultivation increased, the power of bloodline became more prominent. If a martial artist with ordinary talent awakened the power of bloodline, he would become a peerless genius. This was because the power of bloodline was a disguised inheritance. Only when a martial artist of a king level or higher appeared in a family could the bloodline be passed down. Once that power was awakened, it would be very powerful. Lin Xian's talent and perception were very strong. There were not many who could compare with him. However, the first round also involved bloodline. Therefore, in summary, Lin Xian was not outstanding. On the other hand, the other guys who had the power of bloodline were very eye-catching. The people of Sinmu College seemed to value bloodline very much. Therefore, in terms of proportion, they favored bloodline. Moreover, they paid special attention to the few people who possessed the power of bloodline. Among them, Murong Qingqing, Xin Yaotian, and the others had displayed the power of bloodline and attracted the attention of the elders of the college. Lin Xian even found that Shaoli had the power of bloodline. "Boy, how are you feeling now?" the Crimson Dragon asked from the demon beast pouch. "Nothing. In my opinion, the power of bloodline is a gift from the ancestors. It's better to have it, but it doesn't matter if you don't have it." Lin Xian's expression was calm, and his eyes flickered. "So what if I don't have the power of bloodline? When I reach the king level, I can still produce my own power of bloodline." He was very confident and didn't suffer any blow. "It's okay. You didn't suffer much." The Crimson Dragon nodded. "Xiao Xuanzi, remember, you have the great dragon sword soul. It has already surpassed countless bloodline powers. As long as you don't die, you will definitely be a super expert in the future." Lin Xian agreed with this point because he had seen the power of the great dragon sword soul. Its combat strength was truly heaven-defying. So what if he had the power of bloodline? He had killed more than one martial artist of the Divine Bird Palace who had the bloodline of the Divine Bird. Therefore, Lin Xian really didn't take this test seriously. Half a day later, the first round of the test was over. More than half of the martial artists were eliminated. They were all geniuses from their hometowns, but when they came here, they could only accept the cruel reality. Okay, now for the second round of the test, Will. Chapter 707. At the end of the first round, everyone's points were revealed. Those who had more than 12 points were considered to have passed. Moreover, the higher the points, the higher the ranking. The higher the ranking, the more attention one would receive after entering the academy. Murong Qingsheng ranked first, followed by Xiao Li and Shan Yaotian. Lin Xian's score was 9 points, but he didn't have any bloodline power, so he was ranked fourth. Xin Yaotian looked at Lin Xian and snorted. His eyes were full of disdain. Lin Xian shook his head slightly when he saw the provocation in Shan Yaotian's eyes. Xin Yaotian was already no match for him when they were in the Sand region. Even if Xin Yaotian had entered the honorable realm, he would still be no match for him. As for the bloodline power, Lin Xian believed that his dragon sword soul could completely suppress it. Therefore, in Lin Xian's opinion, Shan Yaotian's impatient provocation was purely courting death. Okay, let's move on to the second round, the test of willpower. As soon as the elder finished speaking, half of the martial artists left the square. They had all been defeated in the first round and could only be reduced to spectators. Lin Xian was not worried about the test of willpower at all. Willpower referred to the heart of martial arts. It was also whether one could resist temptation, fear, and other emotions. As a swordsman, Lin Xian had sword essence. His willpower was far stronger than that of ordinary people. Moreover, he also had the dragon sword soul, which could destroy everything. It could be said that very few things could affect him. As more than half of the martial artists left, the square suddenly became comfortable and was no longer so crowded. There were originally more than 1,000 candidates, but now there were only about 500 left. This time, the test was no longer using light pillars. Instead, it was using sparkling white jade platforms. Everyone was given a platform and then sat down. Lin Xian noticed that the mysterious jade platforms were engraved with complicated inscriptions which emitted an inexplicable power. More than 500 mysterious jade platforms combined with the array underground to form the second round of the test. The second round of the test begins. As soon as the voice sounded, Lin Xian felt the space around him distort and the scenery around him began to change rapidly. In the next moment, he found himself in a forest. Whoosh! In front of him, a masked man in black holding a long sword rushed over quickly. Wong! The mighty sword chi quickly slashed towards Lin Xian. Lin Xian's eyes narrowed slightly, but did not flicker. Puff! Sword chi slashed down, passing through like smoke. At that moment, Lin Xian felt as if he had been struck by lightning, as if he could die at any moment. What a realistic illusion! He exclaimed inwardly. That scene just now was too realistic, and he couldn't tell the difference at all. Moreover, the pain was even more realistic. Lin Xian realized that if someone didn't have a strong will, they might die here. Soon, the scene changed, and Lin Xian began the next round of the test. While Lin Xian was taking the test, a change occurred in the square. A few profound jade platforms glowed with white light, teleporting the martial artists on the platforms outside. All the martial artists who were teleported had pale faces and terrified expressions. The surrounding martial artists were shocked. They didn't know what kind of assessment these people had gone through, but looking at their state, it was probably very horrifying. Looking at the martial artists who failed, the official disciples looked disdainful, but the elders behind them shook their heads slightly. If they can't even withstand the beginning of the test, it's useless no matter how good their aptitude is. Yes, those children are not bad. They passed almost instantly, a red-robed elder said with a smile. He was naturally paying attention to the few people who had bloodline power. That person with double 90 points is not bad either. He also passed instantly, the white-robed old lady said. A few elders watched and nodded continuously. The illusion deepened bit by bit, and the difficulty rose sharply. Many of them looked like they were in pain. However, Lin Xian sat cross-legged on the profound jade platform without any reaction. This greatly surprised the elders. Is this child's will that firm? They had never seen such a calm candidate. One had to know that even Morong Qingcheng and the others were frowning. In the illusion test, Lin Xian stood calmly with his hands behind his back. A dragon-shaped sword chi coiled around his body, destroying the illusions. Some of the weaker illusions were already on the verge of collapsing before they even reached Lin Xian. Lin Xian was like the nemesis of those illusions. Not only was he not affected, but he also restrained them. That double 90 points is not simple, a few elders exclaimed. Those official disciples were aghast. They were all people who had experienced the illusion test. They were very familiar with the illusion. It was a martial artist's nightmare. In the end, they could not even tell if it was an illusion or reality. However, Lin Xian was not affected at all. Yin Qingyang looked at Lin Xian with a gloomy look. He did not believe that Lin Xian could remain so calm. However, in the next moment, a crisp sound shocked him. Not only him, but everyone was stunned. Even the elders widened their eyes as if they had seen a ghost. A few of them looked at each other and were too shocked to speak. That was because the mysterious jade platform that Lin Xian was sitting on suddenly cracked open, as if it had been cut open by someone. It was too shocking. After entering the illusion, martial artists could not control their bodies, let alone cut open the mysterious jade platform. Now, the mysterious jade platform was broken. Did the illusion not affect him? A few elders were depressed. They had never seen such a thing. The illusion was terrifying. Not to mention these young people, even those old monsters of the 4th or 5th honorable realm would be affected. Strange, it's really strange. A few of them could not understand. The moment the mysterious jade platform broke, Lin Xian came out of the illusion. After knowing what had happened, his face turned pale. Damn it, if I had known. I would not have used the great dragon sword soul to attack. Lin Xian muttered to himself. He was a little worried. What would happen if he broke the mysterious jade platform? I'm not considered eliminated, right? Lin Xian was a little guilty. The elders suppressed the shock in their hearts as they stared at Lin Xian incessantly. It doesn't count. It doesn't count. Little guy, your performance is beyond our expectations. Young man, what's your name? I happen to be lacking a disciple. Are you interested in being my disciple? A few elders asked. Junior Lin Xian greets all seniors, Lin Xian said respectfully as he stood up and left the square. The surrounding martial artists were shocked. The official disciples widened their eyes. It was the first time they had seen the elders so enthusiastic. Many of them even suspected that they had been affected by the illusion. Yin Qingyang snorted. As a supreme talent, he had not received such treatment. How could a young man who had not even entered the sect receive such treatment? Therefore, he looked at Lin Xian with a hint of hostility. As time passed, more and more people were sent out. These people were pale and looked weak. They were not in good condition. Gradually, the number of people in the square decreased. In the end, only a few figures were left. They were the ones who had performed well in the first round. Chapter 708. There were only a few people left in the square. They were Morong Qingqing, Xiao Li, and the others. Lanbai and a few other experts were also persevering. However, the power of the illusory realm increased as they progressed. Even those supreme talents could not withstand it. Therefore, more and more people were sent out, and the number of people in the square decreased. In the end, there were only 4 people left: Morong Qingqing, Xiao Li, Lanbai, and Shan Yaotian. I'm sure that Morong Qingqing will still be the first in the second round. That goes without saying. Even an idiot can see that. She is indeed a god's favored girl. Not only is she beautiful, but her strength is also unparalleled. Whoever marries such a woman will be blessed for 10 lifetimes. Everyone was talking about her with envy in their eyes. Soon, Lanbai opened her eyes, sighed, and was sent out. Before long, Shen Yaotian was also sent out. There were only 2 people left in the square. Shen Yaotian found that Lin Xian had already been sent out. Then, he smiled disdainfully. Trash. Not only do you have no blood force, but your willpower is also trash. So what if you are in the lead? The road of martial arts is a test of comprehensive strength. I will let you know who the real supreme talent is. Shen Yaotian was full of ambition. He could not wait to fight with Lin Xian and trample him under his feet. In his opinion, Lin Xian must not have passed the illusory realm and was sent out in advance. Lin Xian ignored Shen Yaotian and stared at the two figures in the square. Shaoli was a swordsman. He possessed saber intent and had even condensed a saber soul. His will was incomparably firm. He was much stronger than ordinary warriors. Lin Xian knew this. Therefore, he speculated that Shaoli would be able to last until the end. However, Murong Qingqing's performance was beyond his expectations. Lin Xian had never been able to see through this girl who had been famous for a long time. He didn't know what her martial soul was, and he didn't even know what her cultivation level was. However, he was sure that she had definitely entered the Exalt realm a long time ago. Moreover, it would seem like She's natural talent and will were top-rate existences. As expected of the blessed daughter of the heavens, she is indeed valiant. On the square, several elders looked at the beautiful figure and nodded in satisfaction. Time passed slowly as the crowd waited anxiously. They did not expect that there would be someone who could compete with Murong Qingqing. Suddenly, Shaoli furrowed his brows. His body glowed with white light as he was teleported out. It's out. Looks like the outcome has been decided. Murong Qingqing won. Murong Qingqing's supporters cheered. Not long after, Murong Qingqing was also teleported out. Her forehead was covered with a layer of sparkling and translucent sweat. It seemed that persevering until now was also very difficult for her. All right, the second round is over. Those who persevered for more than 30 minutes have passed the test. Many people sighed and hung their heads dejectedly because nearly half of the people had been eliminated in the second round. Those who had passed were nervously calculating their rankings. The corners of Shen Yaotian's mouth curled up. He was satisfied because he found that he was ranked third. If he could reach the top 3 in the combat assessment, then his overall ranking would be in the top 3. When he entered the academy, he would receive a reward for being in the top 3. The rewards from Senmu College were very generous. Now, let's announce the rankings, the red-robed elder said loudly. The first in the second round is Lin Xian. What? Lin Xian? Everyone was stunned, especially those who were teleported out after Lin Xian. They all looked surprised as if they had misheard. In their opinion, Murong Qingqing would definitely be the first because she had persevered until the end. Even Murong Qingqing herself was flabbergasted. She looked at Lin Xian with curiosity and amazement in her eyes. Shaoli, Lan Bai, and the other geniuses were also puzzled. That's impossible. Wasn't that guy teleported out a long time ago? Elder, did you make a mistake? Shen Yaotian shouted. He did not want Lin Xian to take advantage of a loophole and gain a huge advantage. Many other martial artists were also doubtful. However, some other martial artists were silent because they knew why Lin Xian was judged to be the first. Even the official disciples had strange expressions on their faces as they remained silent. The martial artists who were clamoring about the unfairness seemed to have noticed the situation and quickly asked about it. After learning the situation, they were all shocked. Gradually, the quarreling in the square quieted down. Shen Yaotian was still shouting, "I don't understand. Elder, please enlighten me." He would not let Lin Xian be the first. Stop quarreling. The red-robed elder pressed his hands down and emitted a powerful aura. Suddenly, the whole square quieted down. Take a look at Lin Xian's mysterious jade platform and you will understand. Hearing that, everyone looked over and gasped in shock. Shen Yaotian's body stiffened, and he stood there in a daze. The mysterious jade platform is broken? How is that possible? He naturally knew the function of the mysterious jade platform. It was impossible to break it. At least with their current strength and cultivation, it was impossible to break it. However, the mysterious jade platform that Lin Xian was sitting on was broken in half. That was too shocking. For a moment, Shen Yaotian's mind went blank and he was stunned. Murong Qingqing, Shaoli, and the others gasped. They had just experienced the illusionary realm and knew how dangerous it was. However, Lin Xian could break the mysterious jade platform. Did that mean that the illusionary realm did not affect him at all? If that was the case, it was too terrifying. After our analysis, we have decided that the first place is Lin Xian, the red-robed elder said. Anyone who is interested can raise the issue. Everyone was silent and no one spoke. What a joke. Lin Xian had even broken the mysterious jade platform. Who would dare to object? At this time, Shen Yaotian also recovered from the shock, but his expression was very ugly. Not long ago, he was still proud of himself. He thought that Lin Xian's willpower was weak and that he would be eliminated early. He did not expect that Lin Xian would not be affected at all. Not only did he obtain a piece of land, but he even broke the mysterious jade platform. Thinking back to his previous performance, he realized that he was like a clown. It was extremely laughable. Shun Yaoyan's body trembled. He gritted his teeth and roared in a low voice, "After entering the academy, I will teach you a lesson." Murong Qingchen, on the other hand, looked at Lin Xian with joy in her eyes. It was not a big deal to her that she did not obtain the first place. However, this incident made her realize that Lin Xian was abnormal. This made her even more determined to subdue Lin Xian. Lin Xian seemed to feel Murong Qingqing's fiery gaze. He rubbed his nose helplessly. In the distance, Yan Qingyang's face was gloomy and he clenched his fists. He had already seen Murong Qingqing as his woman for a long time. But now, her performance had made him furious. Lin Xian, right? After entering the academy, I will teach you a lesson. Yan Qingyang snorted in his heart. Chapter 709. The old man in the red robe announced the rankings quickly. Lin Xian, Murong Qingqing, Xiao Li, and Shun Yaotian. Lan Bai occupied the top 5 spots. More than 500 people participated in the second round, but only about 200 people passed the second round. The elimination rate was terrifying. I'll give you an hour to rest and recuperate. After an hour, the third round will begin. The disciples who passed the test sat down cross-legged and began to recuperate. Although there was no battle in the second round, the experience in the illusion had greatly depleted their soul and mind. That process was 10 times more tiring than a battle. Therefore, everyone seized the time to recuperate and prepare for the third round. These people were all geniuses and had elixirs with them. An hour was enough for them to recuperate. Soon, these people opened their eyes, and their eyes shined with light as they excitedly looked forward to the third stage. As long as they passed the third round, they would be able to enter Senmu College. Once they entered Senmu College, their future would be limitless. An hour has passed. The third round will begin now. The old man in the red robe waved his sleeve, and a palm-sized exquisite pagoda flew out. It spun in the air and gradually enlarged. Finally, it landed on the square with a boom. The pagoda was divided into 7 levels. It was covered in golden thorns and shone brightly. This is the trial pagoda. It is divided into 7 levels. Those who pass the first 3 levels will pass. Now, the third round will begin. As the old man in the red robe finished speaking, the trial pagoda shone brightly. 4 doors opened in 4 directions on the first level. The cultivators who had successfully passed the second stage immediately dashed forward. Then, more than 200 people entered the trial pagoda. The third round was an actual battle. Of course, it was not a real battle between the candidates and real martial artists. Instead, it was a virtual battle using illusory array mystic treasures. Do not underestimate this kind of battle because it was more dangerous than a real battle. The opponents' levels were formed according to the martial artist's characteristics. There were 7 levels in the trial pagoda. Passing the first 3 levels was considered a success. More than 200 disciples entered the trial pagoda. Then, the door on the first level closed and the light dimmed. The trial pagoda stood in the square like a small golden mountain. Soon, everyone realized that the trial tower was different because the first floor showed 234 dots of light. They represented the 234 people who had just entered. Lin Xian followed everyone into the Tower of Trials and appeared in an independent space. In the boundless scarlet plains, the sky was somewhat gloomy, and the wind was howling all around. If Lin Xian did not have a strong will, he would have thought that he had arrived at the Scarlet Plains. However, he knew that this was all an illusion. Then, he was surprised again because he found that the wind shadow sword at his waist was gone, and the high-grade spirit rank inner armor on his body was also gone. What replaced it was an ordinary black armor and a black iron longsword. It seemed like he couldn't use his own treasures and could only use the weapons and armors provided by this space. Lin Xian seemed to understand the rules here. He gave it a try and found that he could use his spiritual energy to form a red lotus armor. In other words, his strength was not affected. However, he quickly removed the red lotus armor. According to his speculation, if he died here, it would only mean that he had failed the test. He would not really die. Therefore, Lin Xian would not miss such a wonderful opportunity to fight. He gave up on the red lotus armor and decided to use the most ordinary weapon to fight. A figure condensed on the scarlet plains in front of him. That person was also wearing black armor and holding a black iron sword. He wore a black mask on his face and looked like a messenger of the netherworld. Lin Xian could tell from the other party's aura that he was a half-step venerable one. Looks like the first floor is easy. Lin Xian smirked. A half-step venerable one was nothing to him. He held an ordinary black iron sword and drew a black bolt of lightning in the air, instantly stabbing the other party's throat. Poof! The black figure fell and turned into spiritual energy, disappearing from this space. However, two more figures soon condensed. A black sword and a black mask. They were both half-step venerable ones. Lin Xian's expression did not change, and he continued to stab with his sword. The black iron sword moved in the air, instantly forming two sword shadows that stabbed towards the two black-clothed martial artists. Buzz! Bang! The two martial artists counterattacked, and one of them retreated like a black ghost. The other formed a seal with both hands, condensing an ancient shield in front of him that covered his entire body. Both of them were very fast and completed in an instant. However, Lin Xian's sword was even faster. Poof! Poof! The two figures fell and disappeared. Although the two of them counterattacked, the difference in strength between them was too great. They were not Lin Xian's match at all. However, Lin Xian was slightly surprised. That was because he realized that the two half-step venerable ones had begun to make the best adjustments to counter his attack. Lin Xian's sword was very sharp and fast. Therefore, one of them reacted quickly while the other strengthened his defense. They were changing according to the characteristics of Lin Xian's sword technique. Interesting. I wonder what's going to happen next? Lin Xian was looking forward to it and continued to move forward. Soon, his figure swayed and disappeared from the first level. In the outside world, countless people were staring at the trial tower in the center. They saw that all 234 light spots had arrived at the second level. However, some of those light spots were fast, some were slow, and some were fast. Did they pass the first level? Those people saw the changes in the light spots and discussed in low voices. They realized that after arriving at the second level, the changes in the light spots were even more obvious. A small portion of the light spots only paused for a moment on the second level and immediately rose to the third level. However, most of the light spots remained on the second level. Lin Xian was one of those people at the moment. He had already arrived at the third level. On the second level, there were 3 half-step venerable ones and 4 half-step venerable ones respectively. For Lin Xian, who had condensed his martial soul, the battle was quickly resolved. On the third level, there were also black-clothed martial artists, but their cultivation had become first-level venerable ones. A venerable was already a powerhouse of a region. That was also the reason why Sinma College set the rule that as long as one passed the third level, one would be considered to have completed the trial. Defeated venerable ones were qualified to enter Sinmu College. However, it was not easy to kill a venerable one. Most people would find it very difficult. Of course, Lin Xian was an exception. He had killed more than one venerable one. Therefore, he passed the third level easily. In the outside world, everyone exclaimed because they realized that a few light spots had quickly arrived at the fourth level. At that moment, most people were still struggling on the second level. They passed the third level so quickly? Everyone was shocked and could not believe it. Rumor has it that the opponents on the third level are first-level venerable ones. I didn't expect those people to finish them so quickly. Chapter 710. There were a total of 5 people who entered the 4th level first. They were the top 5 in the second round. These 5 people had condensed real martial souls and reached the venerable realm. In addition, they were geniuses and had mastered many secret martial arts, so it was easy for them to pass the 3rd round. However, the 4th round was not so easy because there were 2 level 1 venerables. When 2 venerables joined forces, their attack power was absolutely terrifying. Although Lin Xian had killed venerables before, he had never killed 2 venerables at the same time. Even at the Divine Bird Palace, one person was sent out first. Taking a deep breath, Lin Xian's eyes lit up. He knew that this was the beginning of the real battle. In the other illusory realms, the geniuses also looked solemn as they stared at their opponents. At this time, many light spots had entered the 3rd level, but soon they disappeared. Then, figures were sent out of the trial and landed on the square. These people were pale, and their breathing was chaotic. They were all warriors who had failed on the 3rd level. Not everyone had reached the venerable realm. If one did not have the corresponding strength to face a real venerable, they would only be defeated. The 3rd level was like a natural chasm, blocking the majority of martial artists outside the door. More and more warriors were sent out of the square. The spectators gasped. At the same time, they were even more shocked by the red spots on the 4th level. How powerful were they to be able to pass the 3rd level in such a short time? In the 4th level, Lin Xian's figure was like a ghost. The black iron sword in his hand kept stabbing out like thunder, tearing the air apart. The 2 venerables on the other side were not weak. They quickly counterattacked. Terrifying light shrouded the surroundings. Every time they collided, the powerful energy produced a shocking explosion. The black iron sword was like a swimming dragon. Lin Xian used the great strength sword soul to fight against the 2 venerables. The wind whistled, the thunder was crazy, the sky was dark, and the earth was sinking. Fortunately, they were in an illusory realm. Otherwise, the entire square would be destroyed in one blow. Peacock spreading tail. One of the venerables shook his spear. The sky was full of dazzling spear flowers. Silver light flickered like a peacock spreading its feathers in the air. A vast and terrifying aura instantly enveloped Lin Xian. Vermilion bird seal. Lin Xian struck out with his left hand, and a crimson vermilion bird flew out. Its entire body was bathed in fiery light as it soared into the sky. The 2 forces intertwined and continuously destroyed each other. At this moment, the other supreme expert's attack arrived. Dense blood palm. Bloody light surged and spread 3,000 meters, covering the entire sky. A bright red palm condensed and appeared above Lin Xian's head. Then, it crashed down. Starburst. He raised his right hand and stabbed his sword into the sky. The black sword gleam shone brightly as sword chi gathered. Pulling in the spiritual energy in the surroundings, it quickly condensed into a meteor. With a dazzling tail of light, it flew upwards. Boom! The black meteor collided with the blood-red palm. The palm closed its 5 fingers and grabbed it, then quickly smashed it down. Meteor sword chi exploded in mid-air. Terrifying sword waves swept out in all directions, turning into waves that could be seen by the naked eye. Kill! Lin Xian shouted angrily. He used the illusory demonic steps and rushed towards the 2 supreme experts. In his hand, the black iron sword was no longer ordinary. Streaks of blazing sword gleams soared into the sky, splitting the void and cutting the ground. They continuously bombarded the 2 supreme experts in black. Boom, boom, boom. Every strike was fierce and violent to the extreme. Lin Xian was like a madman. The more he fought, the braver he became. In the end, he directly engaged in close combat. The iron sword was like a black, angry dragon. It roared ferociously as the dragon's sword soul was activated to the extreme. Poof! Finally, he found an opportunity to stab the spear's supreme expert with the sword. The illusion was very realistic. Blood splattered everywhere as the sword slashed down. Woo-woo! After succeeding with one strike, Lin Xian stepped up his attack. The black iron sword turned into a poisonous dragon and chased after the supreme expert. 13 styles of gale. Sword chi surged like a storm and quickly pierced towards the spear's supreme expert. The void was pierced, and the terrifying sword gleam was unstoppable. Lin Xian's goal was simple. He wanted to kill one of them first before dealing with the other. Roar! The spear's supreme expert was furious. A demonic peacock condensed on the tip of his spear. It was becoming more and more realistic. Poof! As the spear pierced out, the giant peacock attacked as well, making the power of the spear extremely terrifying. The five-colored spear gleam created a demonic shadow in the air. It was like a surging divine light that rushed towards Lin Xian. Clang! 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 Lin Xian swung his iron sword, forming a half-moon sword veil around his body. It was as if the moonlight scattered in front of him to protect him. The five-colored spear gleam was blocked, but the other supreme expert behind him suddenly attacked. His palms were suffused with golden light. Lin Xian tried his best to dodge, but he was still swept in the shoulder. His body immediately smashed into the ground like a meteor. Boom! The ground trembled, and a terrifying deep pit appeared. Whoosh! In the next moment, Lin Xian soared into the sky. His body was covered by a sword veil as he charged again. Although he was injured, he could not rest in this situation. He had to solve it as soon as possible. The dragon's sword soul roared, and the entire sky trembled. At this moment, Lin Xian's combat power was raised to the extreme. His entire body was like a divine sword. He stood in the void, and his body was emitting a dazzling light that lit up the dark sky. Lin Xian took a step forward and arrived in front of the sanguine palm venerable in an instant. He swung his iron sword quickly. It was so fast that it was unbelievable. In an instant, it cut the sanguine palm venerable's shoulder, revealing his terrifying white bones. Vermilion bird seal. At the same time, he formed a seal with his left palm and hit the sanguine palm venerable's hand, sending him flying. The iron sword fell again like a black lightning bolt, cutting the sanguine palm venerable apart. The first supreme expert was destroyed. Roar! The long spear venerable roared and charged again with his spear. Squall style. Lin Xian raised his iron sword in the air and made a killing move. A gale blew, and a red storm blew on the sanguine plain as if it was going to tear the world apart. The mountain peak was shattered, and the trees were blown away. Everything was destroyed wherever the red storm passed. In an instant, the long spear venerable was covered and let out a miserable cry. The red storm was everywhere within a 100-meter radius, and the entire ground caved in. However, before the power disappeared, Lin Xian's figure turned into a ray of light and disappeared. In the other illusory spaces, Murong Qingqing's jade-like palms shone as if they were the hands of God. She crushed a venerable with one palm. Following that, she changed her palm into a finger and pointed it out. A thick finger light was like a flood dragon, and it was extremely terrifying. Soon, her figure also disappeared from the fourth level. The other people were still fighting bitterly. In the outside world, everyone waited patiently. Suddenly, they seemed to have noticed something and stood up excitedly. The fifth level. Someone appeared on the fifth level. There are two of them. Everyone was in an uproar. The difficulty of each level of the trial tower increased exponentially, and the fourth level was 10 times more difficult than the third level. This was something that everyone knew. However, in such a short period of time, two people had successfully broken through. It was too unbelievable. Chapter 7:11. The changes in the trial tower caused a sensation among the crowd. Two people entered the fifth level. One of them must be Murong Qingqing. Who is the other one? He's also so powerful. Everyone recognized Murong Qingqing's strength, but the other person was beyond their expectations. I guess it's Shun Yaotian. He's also a genius and comes from the House of Kings. His strength and trump cards are definitely extraordinary. Only he can stand shoulder to shoulder with Murong Qingqing. House of Kings. Everyone was shocked. Then, they echoed. It was very likely. I wonder if they can pass the fifth level? Someone said worriedly. It's said that the opponents on the fifth level are second heaven venerables. I'm afraid it'll be very difficult to pass the fifth level. Murong Qingqing will definitely pass, but the other one might not. Everyone discussed and expressed their own opinions. The official disciples in the square were even more shocked. The strength of the disciples participating in the assessment this time was beyond their expectations, especially the two on the 5th level. They could be said to be terrifying. The group of elders from the academy were very satisfied. They stared at the trial tower with smiles. On the 5th level, Lin Xian was in great danger. This was the first time he faced a second heaven venerables head-on. Every attack from the other party made his blood boil and his body tremble. Was this the power of a second heaven venerables? Lin Xian was shocked. He only managed to fight against a second heaven venerables because he had an offensive saint technique like the Great Dragon Sword Soul. However, he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to hold on for long. Fortunately, the opponent was not a real human, but a simulation of spiritual power. Therefore, Lin Xian was still confident that he could hold on for a while. Gale style. The iron sword slashed out, and a red storm swept through the world, enveloping the opponent. The black-clothed venerable's spiritual power jumped and formed an armor to resist the red storm. At the same time, he punched out with his fist, which smashed toward Lin Xian like a mountain. Once a second heaven venerables entered, their speed, strength, and defense would all surpass a first heaven venerables. Hence, under normal circumstances, a first-level venerable would not be able to contend against a second-level venerable. Fortunately, Lin Xian had many secret techniques, as well as a powerful martial skill sword soul, so he was able to deal with them for a while. Lin Xian's figure turned into a sword light as he tried his best to dodge and engage in a fierce battle with the black-clothed venerable. In another illusory realm, Murong Qingsheng was also battling a second-level venerable. The energy in the sky surged violently as countless afterimages flew around. A terrifying aura spread out between heaven and earth. Murong Qingsheng was like a fairy descending from the heavens. She stepped on a jade lotus platform, and lotus flowers danced around her body. The sparkling and translucent petals spun rapidly, sometimes defending, sometimes attacking. Every time they collided, there would be a thunderous sound. Terrifying energy tore through the void and roared incessantly. Although Murong Qingsheng was at a disadvantage, he did not show any signs of losing. While Lin Xian and Murong Qingsheng were fighting against the second heaven honorable realm, the other geniuses had also passed the test of the 4th level and reached the 5th level. However, when they reached the 6th level, things did not go so smoothly for them. The might of a second heaven venerate had completely suppressed them, causing them to be severely injured right from the start. Shun Yaoyan's 108 starry halos shone brightly, making him look like a god of war. When he punched out, starry light filled the sky as countless meteorite-like fists struck the ground. However, this terrifying attack was shattered by the palm of the black-clothed venerable. Shun Yaotian retreated as blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. His eyes were filled with shock. However, as a genius and a disciple of the House of Kings, he would not be defeated so easily. He waved his hands, and a starry sky map appeared above him. It was extremely vast and shone with a mysterious light. Shun Yaotian held the starry sky map and charged toward the second heaven honorable realm like a god of war. However, this terrifying attack was still sent flying by his opponent. It was not that he was weak, but that his opponent was too strong. The starry sky map dimmed and disappeared. Shun Yaotian spat out blood and was sent flying. On the other side, Shaoli was like a saber demon. He held a black iron saber in his hand and swung it wildly. Dazzling saber radiance swept out in all directions like waves, causing the entire void to boil. However, his opponent was too strong. The terrifying suppression made him feel helpless. A terrifying fist filled the entire sky and instantly shattered the saber radiance in the sky. At the same time, it charged toward Shaoli. Boom. Shaoli was hit hard and fell to the ground. In the last illusion, the blue and white palm kept changing seals. Huge poisonous scorpions, spiders, pythons, and all sorts of poisonous creatures flew out from the void and charged forward quickly. At the same time, he also condensed a poisonous cloud and floated over quickly. The surrounding air dimmed, and purplish-gray poisonous gas filled the air. The surrounding plants and trees withered and died. Even the ground turned yellow as if it had lost its vitality. The terrifying poisonous gas swept through the entire space. The poisonous gas was too powerful. Those below the supremacy realm would definitely die upon contact. Even a first-level supremacy might not be able to resist it. However, his opponent was a second-level supremacy and was extremely powerful. Therefore, even though the blue and white palm had powerful poison, he was still defeated. Soon, the trial tower flickered and 3 figures were sent out of the square. When the crowd outside saw that 5 light spots had gathered on the 5th floor, they exclaimed excitedly. However, they soon realized that 3 of the light spots were quickly dimming and disappearing. In the end, a white light flashed and 3 figures appeared in the square. Did he fail? The crowd was puzzled. Then, they heaved a sigh of relief. There was a huge difference between each level of the supremacy realm. Even prodigies would find it difficult to fight someone of a higher level. The trial tower restricts weapons. I'm afraid that these prodigies' strength has been reduced. Many martial artists analyzed. They knew that these prodigies would be even stronger in the real world. This was because they definitely had heaven-defying weapons in their hands that could increase their combat strength by several times. No, that's Shin Yaotian. Why is he out too? He was defeated too? Then who's still inside? The crowd was shocked. They realized that the situation was different from what they had expected. Lanbai, Shaoli. Soon, the crowd recognized the 3 figures that had been sent out. Then, they gasped. The ones still on the 5th floor are Morong Qingqing and Lin Xian. Lin Xian. After Shan Yaotian understood the situation, his face was terrifyingly gloomy. He stared at the trial tower with a murderous look in his eyes. He was shocked that Lin Xian had not come out yet. He must have just gone in. Just wait and see. He'll come out soon. Shun Yaotian comforted himself. The results of the 3rd round were based on how long one stayed in the trial tower. For example, on the 5th floor, if one stayed for 1 minute and the other party stayed for 2 minutes, the one who stayed for 2 minutes would naturally be ranked higher. Although Shin Yaotian had been sent out early, he still had a glimmer of hope. Lin Xian had just entered the 5th floor. If that was the case, then the situation was not too bad. According to his analysis, Lin Xian would definitely fail and be sent out soon. The surrounding people were also whispering because they did not know if Lin Xian was one of the 2 light spots that had entered first or later. However, no matter what, Lin Xian's strength was already very strong and had shocked everyone. Chapter 712. On the 5th level of the trial tower, Lin Xian was like a sword god, surrounded by a huge sword chi. He stood in the air with a solemn expression. It was a rare experience to fight against a 2nd-level supremacy without any scruples. Therefore, in order to prolong the battle, Lin Xian activated the Red Lotus armor. The bright red armor covered his entire body, and the red lotus on it swayed as if it was alive. With the Red Lotus armor, Lin Xian's defense increased by a lot, and it was not as difficult to deal with him as before. At the same time, he abandoned the black iron sword and held the sword of massacre and sword of nirvana with both hands. With the 2 auras surrounding him, Lin Xian was like the god of slaughter from hell as he stepped through the air. He did not hold back in this battle. Kill! With a furious roar, his body was like a bolt of lightning. He took a step forward and arrived in front of the black-clothed supremacy in an instant. The 2 swords in his hands quickly stabbed out. The sword of massacre and sword of nirvana were very powerful. In fact, they were not just sword intents but had their own concepts. Although the intent of massacre and intent of nirvana were not complete, they still had their own charm. The black sword chi surged with an aura of death and nirvana. It covered half of the sky, and wherever it passed, the vegetation would wither. Although the black-clothed supremacy was not a real life, he was still formed by spiritual power. This sword also affected him, and his body became a little dim. However, as a 2nd-level supremacy, he was not so easily killed. His palm was like a knife. When it fell, the entire space seemed to be cut open, and the aura of nirvana was also ruthlessly cut off. At this moment, the bright red long sword had already slashed down, accompanied by the sea of blood that filled the sky. The crazy, murderous aura swept in all directions, causing the entire sky to turn scarlet. At this moment, there seemed to be only one sound left in the world, and that was to kill. 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 Kill to your heart's content. The bright red longsword slashed down mercilessly from the sky. Clang. The black-clothed supremacy did not have any emotions. He was like a killing machine. He threw a punch, which collided with the sword and made a shocking sound. The sea of blood in the sky surged and was sent flying. Lin Xian was hit, and his qi and blood surged. He could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Meanwhile, the other party was similarly blasted backwards, causing the void to collapse. If someone else was here, they would definitely cry out in surprise. Lin Xian had actually pushed a second-rank venerable master away. This was unbelievable. However, Lin Xian's expression was extremely solemn because he discovered that the other party did not suffer any substantial damage. It seemed like he had no choice but to combine the two swords. In the next moment, Lin Xian clasped his hands together. The pitch-black longsword and the blood-red sword in his hands fused into a red-black demonic sword. Death and slaughter fused together to form a true demonic sword. At the same time, Lin Xian used a killer move, falling stars from heaven. This move was extremely powerful. It was a martial skill that Lin Xian had been practicing ever since he started cultivating. Once he used it, no one had ever been able to dodge it. His body turned into a stream of light. Lin Xian held the demon's sword in his hand and quickly stabbed forward. It was too fast. Lin Xian was so fast that he didn't even leave a trace in the sky. Lin Xian had already arrived in front of the black-robed venerable. Puff. Finally, it pierced through the man's armor and into his chest. Blood spurted out in all directions. The black-robed venerable roared angrily. He waved his palms and slammed them heavily into Lin Xian's chest, sending him flying. Boom! Lin Xian was hit head-on. He was sent flying thousands of feet away and crashed into a huge mountain. In an instant, the huge mountain crumbled, forming countless rocks that drowned him. Boom! In the next moment, countless huge sword qi rushed out and sliced the huge mountain apart, forming a spacious area. Lin Xian, on the other hand, crawled up from the rubble, gasping for breath and coughing out large amounts of blood. Countless cracks appeared on the red lotus armor in front of his chest like a spider web. Especially on his chest, there were 2 deep palm prints. This palm was too terrifying. Several of Lin Xian's ribs were broken, and his internal organs were severely damaged. Fortunately, he had the red lotus armor. Otherwise, this palm would have blown him up. Damn it, what a troublesome fellow. Lin Xian spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes were cold. On the other side, the black-robed venerable was not in a good state either. The great dragon sword soul was too powerful. Lin Xian's attack was enough to break through his defense. Moreover, the red-black demonic sword was even more strange. Coupled with the powerful martial technique, falling stars, he was severely injured. A red-black demonic sword was stabbed into his chest. It emitted a murderous and deathly aura that constantly attacked his body. Roar! The black-robed venerable's hair was disheveled. He roared angrily. A powerful force burst out from his body and sent the demonic sword flying. The wound on his chest could not be healed immediately. That was the remnant aura of the great dragon sword soul. Unless there was a special method, it would be difficult to remove the aura of the great dragon sword soul in a short period of time. The black-robed venerable used his method to madly absorb the surrounding spiritual qi to suppress his injuries. In the distance, Lin Xian also roared. He opened his mouth and sucked in the air. The spiritual qi in the air surged, forming a mighty waterfall of spiritual qi that was thousands of meters long. It quickly entered Lin Xian's body. Then, he used the longevity incantation and displayed his powerful recovery ability to quickly repair the injuries on his body. In the next moment, a dazzling light burst out from his eyes. His hands danced. Golden lightning danced in his left hand and condensed into a golden bow. The wind concept in his right hand quickly circulated and formed a green arrow. Ancient secret art, clear wind bow. In the next moment, The power of wind and thunder surged in the void. The terrifying attack was like a shocking rainbow, leaving behind afterimages of wind and thunder. Like afterimages of wind and thunder, it instantly pierced toward the black-robed venerable. Boom! The terrifying power not only interrupted the black-robed venerable's recovery, but it also worsened his injuries. In the next moment, Lin Xian's injuries were mostly healed. His expression was cold. Wearing a bright red armor, he slowly walked over like a fiend god. On the armor, the original red color mixed with the flowing blood. It looked even more demonic. The red lotus seemed to be coming to life. His eyes were like lightning. The great dragon sword soul on Lin Xian's body surged, forming a terrifying force as if it was about to awaken. Boom! Boom! With every step Lin Xian took, the ground would tremble. It was as if the one walking was not Lin Xian, but an ancient giant. An oppressive and heavy aura filled the entire space, making it difficult for people to breathe. Although the black-robed venerable was not a real person, he could still feel the oppressive aura at this moment. He roared angrily, and his body also emitted a terrifying aura to fight back. However, he was injured, and the great dragon sword soul in his body was destroyed. In addition, Lin Xian was too strong now. For a moment, he was at a disadvantage. If someone knew about this, their jaws would definitely drop. Lin Xian was actually suppressing a second-stage venerable. Boom! Boom! With every step Lin Xian took, his aura became stronger. The great dragon sword soul also roared to the sky. Then, a dragon-shaped sword shadow condensed in front of him. It was illusory at first, but as the great dragon sword soul roared, it became more and more real. Seeing the dragon-shaped sword shadow, the black-robed venerable roared uneasily. It was as if he was instinctively afraid of it. Chapter 7:13. In the next moment, he ignored his injuries and attacked in a frenzy. A terrifying aura condensed and formed a fist that smashed towards Lin Xian. Above the fist, there was a wolf head formed by spiritual energy. It roared ferociously and carried the aura of a martial soul. This attack was enough to easily kill a first-rank honorable martial artist. However, Lin Xian did not dodge. He slowly held the dragon-shaped sword in front of him. The energy in his body roared and surged into the dragon-shaped sword. Lin Xian's heart thumped wildly. He felt as though he was being sucked dry. Feeling the loss of energy in his body, Lin Xian did not hesitate and quickly swung the dragon-shaped sword. Buzz! The sword chi was dazzling. It was as though a real dragon was swimming in the void. The terrifying energy cut the entire sky in half. Boom! The real dragon-shaped sword collided with the wolf head fist. The terrifying energy instantly filled the entire space. Light flashed and a storm swept across, drowning everything. The light flickered and the space swayed. A gust of wind came from nowhere and blew away the dust and fog. Lin Xian knelt on one knee with his sword in hand. He was panting and his face was unusually pale. In front of him, the ground was split open. The terrifying crack extended as far as the eye could see. The aura of the black shirt honorable martial artist had disappeared. Lin Xian's mouth twitched. The attack just now was a sword shadow formed by the great dragon sword soul. It was extremely terrifying. However, the energy consumption was even more shocking. Lin Xian was almost sucked dry. He originally thought that the meteor shower was the most energy-consuming move. He did not expect it to be so lacking compared to the dragon-shaped sword shadow. He sat down cross-legged and wanted to recover. At this moment, a white light flashed and Lin Xian left the 5th level. At the same time, in another illusory space, Murong Qingcheng was sweating profusely. Behind her, a human figure gradually disappeared. In front of her was the black shirt honorable martial artist who had collapsed. With a flash of white light, she also left the 5th level. In the outside world, the crowd was in an uproar. They saw the 2 light spots on the 5th level disappear at almost the same time and appear on the 6th level. They passed. They passed. Countless people went crazy. Even the official disciples were stunned and could not believe it. Yin Qingyang's face was gloomy and he was furious. The woman he liked had entered the 6th level with his love rival. This made him feel an indescribable anger. At the same time, he also felt a trace of fear towards Lin Xian. One had to know that the fifth level was the second level of the Venerable Realm, yet the other party had actually been able to break through. This was truly beyond his expectations. However, he was not afraid because he had also passed the fifth level back then. Moreover, the years of training at Sinma College had made him even stronger. Therefore, he was confident in dealing with Lin Xian. Shen Yaotian was stunned. Impossible. This is impossible. He roared in his heart, unable to accept this fact. This was a huge blow to him. He had entered the fifth level and hadn't persevered for long before coming out, yet the other party had actually passed. The gap between them was self-evident. For a moment, all kinds of disappointment and frustration welled up in his heart. Shen Yaotian felt his vision darken, and he almost fainted from anger. Tower of Trials, 6th floor. The corner of Lin Xian's mouth twitched as he smiled helplessly. In front of him, two second-level venerables stood proudly with cold expressions. Furthermore, his spiritual power was depleted and he was injured. It would be good if he could fight with half of his strength. Moreover, the two second-level venerables teaming up was 10 times more difficult than the fifth level. Even if Lin Xian was at his peak, it would be impossible for him to pass, let alone now that he was severely injured and exhausted. However, as a swordsman, it was not his style to give up without a fight. Therefore, in this battle, even if he had to bleed to the last drop of blood, he would give it his all. With a longsword in hand, Lin Xian walked up step by step. On the other side, Murong Qingcheng was also under great threat. Behind her, an illusory figure flickered and emitted a terrifying aura, as if it had traveled through time and space from the ancient times. However, the two venerables teaming up was too powerful. Even if Murong Qingcheng was extremely powerful, she was no match for them. However, in the next moment, a strange inscription flashed between her eyebrows. It emitted a dazzling light, and a terrifying power was emitted. That power made the two venerables feel uneasy. However, Murong Qingcheng thought for a moment and finally hid the mysterious inscription. She did not attack again. Outside, everyone waited anxiously, their eyes fixed on the 6th level of the trial tower. In the next moment, the two light spots disappeared. Then, a white light flashed, and two figures appeared in the square. They're out. They're finally out. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. They knew that the two of them had failed the 6th challenge. However, this was already very terrifying. One had to know that the 6th level was guarded by two second-level venerables. It would be abnormal if the two of them really succeeded. Murong Qingcheng's white clothes were whiter than snow. Although her aura was a little chaotic and weak, it could not hide her beautiful posture. As for Lin Xian, he immediately sat cross-legged in the square as soon as he appeared. His hands formed a seal, as if he had entered a cultivation state. The two figures attracted everyone's attention, especially Murong Qingcheng. Most of the male cultivators were looking at her. Murong Qingcheng had long been accustomed to the burning gazes of the surrounding cultivators. Ever since she was born, she had been surrounded by countless gazes like this. Until now, she had completely ignored them. Perhaps only someone like Lin Xian, who had a normal demeanor and was somewhat resistant, could arouse her interest. Murong Qingcheng tilted her head slightly and looked at Lin Xian. Then, a trace of surprise appeared on her beautiful face. Is he about to break through? Sure enough, a powerful aura rose from Lin Xian's body. A huge spirit energy vortex appeared above his head. Countless amounts of spirit energy flowed into Lin Xian's body like an upside-down galaxy. In the next moment, Lin Xian opened his eyes. His gaze was like two sword rays, vast and mighty, piercing through the void. His body was filled with a powerful force. However, everyone's eyes were filled with doubt, which then turned into shock. How is this possible? The limit of the spirit-detecting realm. Heavens, how is this possible? Everyone was stunned. They did not expect Lin Xian to only be at the limit of the spirit-detecting realm. Furthermore, this cultivation had just broken through. Many people's minds went blank. They could not believe the facts in front of them. Not only them, but everyone was also stunned. Previously, Lin Xian had used a special method to hide his cultivation. Coupled with the fluctuations of his martial soul, everyone thought that he was a young martial artist who had reached the venerable realm. Now, they realized that Lin Xian's cultivation was only at the peak of the spirit-detecting realm. Such a cultivation was too ordinary, but he had passed the 5th level of the trial. He had even lasted long enough on the 6th level to be teleported out together with Morong Qingqing. How is this possible? Everyone felt like their heads were about to explode. Martial soul. He must have a martial soul. He's a fake venerable one. Everyone discussed in shock. Martial artists who had condensed a martial soul but had not reached the venerable realm were called fake venerable ones. They had seen such venerable ones before, but no one was as powerful as Lin Xian. The Academy elders were also shocked. This little guy is too unexpected. It's really rare for a fake venerable one to reach this level. Chapter 7:14. Congratulations, you've broken through again. Morong Qingqing smiled at Lin Xian. This smile stunned everyone. It was as if the entire world had become incomparably beautiful. It's all right, I was just lucky. Lin Xian shrugged. Everyone was startled awake. They were jealous and envious. They wished they could transform into Lin Xian and chat with Morong Qingqing. The eyes of Yin Qingyang, Shun Yaotian, and the rest were spitting fire. Murderous intent surged from their bodies as they wished they could tear Lin Xian apart, especially Yin Qingyang. His eyes were cold as he roared in his heart. How dare a fake honorable warrior steal my woman? Kid, I'll teach you how to behave after entering the school. With so many people and elders present, he could not do anything to Lin Xian. However, as long as Lin Xian entered the school, he would have plenty of chances. Lin Xian and Morong Qingqing walked to the edge of the crowd, waiting for the end of the 3rd round. 2 hours later, all the light spots in the Tower of Trials disappeared. Everyone was transported out. At this point, the 3 rounds of assessment had ended. The entrance exam also came to an end. The martial artists who passed the 3 rounds were in high spirits. They danced with joy because they could finally enter Senmu College. As for the strong disciples who were ranked at the top, they began to calculate their rankings. What reward will you exchange for this time? Morong Qingqing looked at Lin Xian. Reward? What reward? What's there? Lin Xian was puzzled. You don't know? Morong Qingqing said, the top 10 will all receive admission rewards. The top 3 will receive even more generous rewards. They will probably be rewarded with martial arts. Martial arts? What level? Lin Xian sighed in his heart. Yufei had the ability to gather information, but compared to Morong Qingqing, he was much weaker. It seemed that he still had a long way to go before he could establish his own power. Half-Earth rank martial arts. It was passed down from ancient times. Its power is not inferior to the current Earth rank martial arts. Half-Earth tier martial art. Lin Xian's eyes flashed. He didn't expect to receive such a big gift right after entering the academy. Now, I'll announce the rankings of this assessment. Hearing the red-robed old man's words, the surrounding martial artists couldn't help but become excited. Those martial artists who had passed the test also pricked up their ears. In fact, they had already estimated the rankings in private. After all, the rankings of the 3 stages were there. No matter how they ranked, the top 3 would still be the same people. The ranking this time is a little special. There are 2 people in first place. 2 people. Hearing this, everyone trembled and listened carefully. Lin Xian and Morong Qingqing were first in the first 2 stages, and they both persisted until the end of the 3rd stage. Therefore, their rankings are the same. They are both first. Whoosh! Everyone was in an uproar. Even though they had made some calculations in private before, they were still incomparably shocked when the Academy Elder announced it. This was a little different from their predictions. They thought that Lin Xian would be able to get 2nd or 3rd place, but they didn't expect him to be first. They knew that Morong Qingqing was powerful and outstanding, but this was the first time Lin Xian appeared in front of them. He was also a fake honorable martial artist. To be able to get first place this time was beyond everyone's expectations. Humph. Shun Yaotian snorted coldly. His handsome face couldn't be any darker. The 3rd place is Shaoli. The red-robed old man said loudly again. Because it was a double first place, there was no second place. The third place was obtained by Shaoli, which was well-deserved. After the announcement of the top 3, many people sighed. Because the rewards for the top 3 were very generous. Not only were there elixirs, but there were also some half-Earth rank martial arts. That was the most tempting thing. Shin Yaotian couldn't get into the top 3. He was so angry that his whole body trembled. Firstly, it was because of the half-Earth rank martial arts. Furthermore, he felt that he had lost face. One had to know that he came from the House of Kings and had always been pursuing Murong Qingqing. He thought that he was the only one who was worthy of her. But now, Lin Xian had surpassed him. Moreover, Murong Qingqing's attitude towards Lin Xian was somewhat ambiguous. This undoubtedly deeply provoked him. Boy, wait until the freshman competition. I'll let you know how powerful I am. Shin Yaotian gritted his teeth. Next, the red-robed old man announced the rankings of the next few people. Among them, Shin Yaotian was ranked 4th, and the 5th was the youth named Lan Bai who used poison. After the rankings were announced, the red-robed old man said again, I'll give you 1 day to deal with all kinds of things. Gather here tomorrow morning. Yes, everyone was excited and then left. Brother Xian, congratulations. Yu Fei ran over excitedly. He knew that Lin Xian was powerful, but he didn't expect him to get first place. Let's go. We'll talk when we get back. Lin Xian greeted Murong Qingqing and Shaoli, then left with Yu Fei. Lin Xian and Yu Fei didn't return to the storm courtyard. Instead, they went to their new residence in Skypool City. It was a small courtyard. Although it wasn't big, it was convenient and quiet. Moreover, it wasn't cheap to buy a courtyard in a place like Skypool City. After entering the courtyard, Lin Xian asked the Crimson Dragon to set up a defensive array around the courtyard to ensure Yu Fei's safety. The Crimson Dragon was an expert in setting up the array, so he quickly finished setting it up. Those below the Venerable Realm couldn't break it at all. Even a first-level Venerable would need to spend some effort to break it. For Yu Fei, it was enough. Then, Lin Xian took out some pills and spirit wine that he had refined, as well as some spirit rank cultivation techniques and artifacts, and threw them to Yu Fei. Right now, you should focus on your cultivation and increase your strength, Lin Xian said. Thank you, Brother Xian. Yu Fei looked at the things on the ground and was very excited. Brother Xian, what else do you need me to do? For missions. First, find out why the Palace of War is closed. Second, find out the terrain and power situation of Skypool City. Third, organize the information about the Azure Red Society, their headquarters and branches, the more detailed the better. Fourth, find out if there are any weapon refining grandmasters in the lower blood realm. If there are, remember the information. These 4 missions were related to his future plans, so Lin Xian handed them to Yu Fei. Don't worry, Brother Xian. Yu Fei patted his chest and promised. Lin Xian nodded. I just entered the academy, so I might not come out for a while. So you can only rely on yourself during this period of time. If there's any trouble, inject your spirit energy into this jade pendant and I'll know. Lin Xian handed over another jade pendant. This jade pendant was also made by the Crimson Dragon. There was an information transmission array inside. Once spirit energy was injected, the other party would know. Yu Fei took it and carefully put it away. Then, the Crimson Dragon created an array disk that allowed Yu Fei to control the array. Alright, Brother Xian. Since you want to develop your power, what do you want to name it? Name? Lin Xian rubbed his chin. Let's call it Dragon Sword Pavilion. He rose up with the great Dragon Sword spirit, so he took this name. Dragon Sword Pavilion. Good name. Yu Fei clapped his hands. I believe that this name will spread throughout the entire Blood Realm. The next day, Lin Xian left the courtyard and headed to the plaza of Skypool City. When he arrived, there were already quite a few people in the plaza. There were more than 1,000 people who participated in the exam yesterday, but only 138 people succeeded in the end. The elimination rate was very terrifying. Soon, more than 100 people gathered. At this time, the red-robed elder appeared again. Chapter 7:15. Over 100 young martial artists gathered at the square of Skypool City and waited quietly. Not long after, the space above the square distorted and an old man appeared. It was the red-robed elder from before. Everyone, let's go. Under his lead, the crowd quickly set off for Sinmu College. Soon, they arrived at their destination. Looking ahead, the crowd was excited. Lin Xian took a deep breath and looked ahead with a burning gaze. There were two gigantic bronze doors that were 100 feet tall. They were like two huge mountains that had stood tall for thousands of years. Lin Xian exclaimed. He had never seen such majestic doors before. He could feel a surge of power and a faint vicissitude aura from them. The red-robed elder struck out a series of seals, and the gigantic bronze doors slowly opened. Everyone couldn't help but rush forward. Lin Xian was also excited as he walked toward the gigantic bronze doors. He had finally entered the sacred cultivation ground of Tianwu continent. Sinmu College was huge, and one couldn't see the end of it. Halls and pavilions were scattered all over the place. Mountains and waterfalls filled the area. Spiritual trees and spiritual herbs could be seen everywhere. Spiritual birds and spiritual beasts roamed freely. They weren't afraid of humans at all. The entire Sinmu College was like a paradise on earth. It was filled with spiritual energy everywhere. Let's go. You are the latest batch of new students, the red-robed elder said. There are new students? Aren't we the only ones? Someone was puzzled. You are only taking the test in Skypool City. There are also tests in other regions of Tianwu continent. As long as you pass the tests, you can still enter Tianwu College, the red-robed elder explained. After understanding the situation, the crowd continued forward. Look, what's that? Someone exclaimed. Everyone looked up. Lin Xian also turned his head curiously. Between the mountains, there was a huge black tortoise prostrating there. On its back was a black stone tablet that was 100 feet tall. Names were carved on the stone tablet, and they were shining brightly. What's that? The crowd was shocked when they saw the majestic scene. Lin Xian squinted his eyes. He saw 3 powerful ancient words on the right side of the black stone tablet. Mystic Honored Roll. That's right, this is the mysterious sovereign leaderboard. The red-robed old man explained. This is a ranking created by the Academy for disciples below the 3rd heaven of the Exalt realm. As long as one enters the Martial Venerate realm, one will have the right to be listed on the list. However, the Mystic Venerate ranking only records the top 100 in the Academy. Top 100 under the 3rd heaven of the Venerable realm. Lin Xian was astonished. His current strength was equivalent to that of a 1st heaven Venerable tier peak stage cultivator. He wondered what rank he would be ranked at. Little fellows, if you have the strength, then go all out to fight for the rankings. The red-robed old man smiled and said, because the rankings are related to your spiritual value points. Spiritual value points? Lin Xian was also puzzled. Spiritual value points are very important. We'll talk about the details later. The red-robed elder smiled mysteriously. At the side, Murong Qingqing opened her red lips and said, it is said that spiritual value points can be exchanged for all cultivation resources. Even Earth-rank martial arts and half-Earth-rank treasures can be exchanged for. Therefore, in Sinmu College, other than life, spiritual value points are the most important. Exchange for Earth-rank martial arts. Lin Xian was shocked. He knew how precious and powerful Earth-rank martial arts were. He had exchanged his life for Earth-rank martial arts. However, he did not expect that he could exchange for them here. As expected of Sinmu College, it was indeed domineering. Then what are the strength of those fellows on the mysterious venerable ranking? Lin Xian asked again. It is very difficult for ordinary 1st heaven venerables to be on the ranking, unless they are at the peak of the 1st heaven venerable tier. Murong Qingqing's expression was solemn. It is said that the top 10 are all at the peak of the 2nd heaven venerable tier. Even the 1st is a 3rd heaven venerable tier. 3rd heaven. Lin Xian was surprised. There are actually students who have reached the 3rd heaven. They are really powerful. One had to know that it was very difficult to advance in the venerable realm. For example, in the Sand region, the elders of a family were 1st heaven venerables. A 2nd heaven venerable tier could probably suppress an area. However, there were actually 3rd heaven venerables here. Moreover, they were students. That meant that they were not too old. It was very likely that they were very young. Number 1. Lin Xian looked at the mysterious venerable ranking. He saw that the number 1 name on the black stone tablet was shining with a golden light. Dugu Out Yin. At that moment, the others saw this name as well and immediately trembled. It was as if a heavy force was pressing down on their heads, making it impossible for them to turn around. Looks like we have to enter the venerable realm as soon as possible. Lin Xian felt a sense of pressure. Everyone left and followed the red-robed elder. However, they all had a common goal in their hearts, and that was the mysterious venerable ranking. Under the red-robed elder's lead, they arrived in front of a majestic hall. The hall was magnificent, like a huge city. There were countless obscure lights flickering around it. The power that was unconsciously released made Lin Xian and the others tremble. What a terrifying formation, Lin Xian exclaimed. His soul power was outstanding, so he could feel the terror within. This hall was probably very important. Otherwise, it would be impossible to set up such a powerful formation. Lin Xian guessed. The Four Spirits Extermination Formation. I didn't expect it to be such a formation. The Crimson Dragon exclaimed. You know it? Lin Xian asked. Of course. This formation is extremely terrifying. Even a king would not dare to enter it. The Crimson Dragon said. It can trap a king. Lin Xian was shocked. He knew that the formation was powerful, but he did not expect it to be this powerful. The red-robed elder brought Lin Xian and the others to the front of the hall. There were already many people gathered there. Lin Xian looked around and realized that there were 3 teams led by 3 elders. Are these the other new students? Lin Xian guessed. Indeed, his guess was right. The new students who had arrived first turned around and looked at Lin Xian and the others with sharp gazes. It seemed that after learning about the mysterious venerable ranking, these fellows' inner competitiveness and arrogance had been stimulated. Among them, most of them were looking at Morong Qingqing. The fire in their eyes was not hidden at all. However, when they saw Lin Xian next to her, they all frowned. A few of them even snorted coldly with a hint of warning in their eyes. Lin Xian smiled bitterly. Can you pretend that you don't know me? Why? Morong Qingqing tilted her head and acted like a little girl. Are you afraid of them? This woman. Lin Xian rubbed his temples. Was she trying to provoke them? Indeed, when they saw Morong Qingqing acting so intimately with Lin Xian, the eyes of the young men opposite them were spitting fire. The female students were so angry that they rolled their eyes, their hearts filled with jealousy. Among them, a young girl wearing fiery red leather armor stared at Morong Qingqing. Her eyes were filled with a fighting spirit that was not inferior to a man's. There was a layer of crimson glazed light shining on her body. Lin Xian raised his head to look and was instantly stunned. Chapter 7:16. The girl had slender legs, a slim waist, and a voluptuous figure. Her fiery red leather armor accentuated her impressive figure. Otherwise, she would still have a delicate and beautiful face. Her fiery red hair fluttered in the wind, giving her an indescribably hot aura. Morong Qingqing was quiet and elegant like a fairy, while the girl was hot and full of youthfulness. At that moment, all the male disciples were looking at Morong Qingqing and the fiery red girl. Lin Xian looked carefully and found that not only was the girl's face and figure superb, but her aura was also surging. She had definitely reached the honorable realm. Moreover, she looked like a powerhouse among the honorable realm. She was definitely the darling of heaven and earth. She's called Dongfang Phoenix. She's very strong and comes from the Dongfang clan. She was born with the ability to control fire. The Dongfang clan? Yes, the hidden house of kings, Morong Qingqing explained. Hiss. Lin Xian took a deep breath. Another house of kings. It seemed that these prodigies had extraordinary backgrounds. For such people to come to Senma College, it was enough to show how powerful and mysterious Senma College was. In the distance, the girl called Dongfang Phoenix felt Lin Xian's gaze and immediately snorted. Her beautiful eyes were filled with anger as she glared back at him. Ugh! Lin Xian was sweating. She really had a bad temper. As if she felt Lin Xian's cultivation aura, Dongfang Phoenix showed a trace of disdain and quickly looked at Morong Qingqing. She had heard of Goddess Morong's reputation long ago, but she was not convinced. Therefore, when they met, she developed a strong sense of hostility. Murong Qingqing smiled faintly, then continued to whisper to Lin Xian. If he guessed correctly, Dongfang Phoenix was the first in that team. As for the other two teams, the one on the left was called Huang Lei, and the one on the right was called Zhou Su. Both of them were very strong and should not be underestimated. Lin Xian looked in the direction of the voice and saw a robust young man standing in the group on the left. His muscles were as hard as rocks, full of sharp edges. Looking from afar, it didn't seem like a person, but a mountain, a huge mountain. It gave off a boundless sense of oppression. In the group on the right, there was a young man in a black robe. He stood with his hands behind his back and his chin slightly raised. He looked at the sky as if he did not care about anyone. Lin Xian felt that the person looked very familiar, but he couldn't recall who it was. The young man suddenly turned his head and stared at Lin Xian with a trace of suspicion in his eyes. Then, he seemed to have thought of something. "It's you? You know me?" Lin Xian asked. "Of course, my younger sister lost to you back then. This time, I will avenge her." The black-robed young man's voice was cold. He looked at Lin Xian with hostility. "Younger sister?" Lin Xian was puzzled. He couldn't remember, but the other party's aura was very familiar. The peak of the spirit-detecting realm? Zhou Su was slightly stunned. Then, he sneered disdainfully, "Looks like you haven't been doing well these years. I really don't know how my younger sister could lose to someone like you." Hearing this, the others looked at Lin Xian. Their eyes were full of disdain and ridicule. After all, the peak of cultivation was nothing here. Their bodies weren't even considered the lowest level. "This guy is so weak. How did he get in? He couldn't have gotten in through the back door, right?" The cultivators of the other three groups discussed. However, no one in Lin Xian's group dared to laugh because they had witnessed Lin Xian's strength with their own eyes. Lin Xian frowned. Were these people idiots? They only looked at the surface cultivation? "Humph, we'll know whether I'm strong or not after a battle. Who wants to give it a try?" Lin Xian swept his gaze across the crowd with a sharp gaze. He wasn't someone who would back down. Moreover, he didn't plan to back down after coming here. Lin Xian's gaze carried a trace of the Sword Soul's aura. It was so sharp that it almost cut open the void. At this moment, the cultivators who were swept by his gaze suddenly trembled in fear. "How is this possible? I'm actually afraid? What a terrifying gaze. Did this guy hide his strength?" Many people were frightened and didn't dare to provoke him. Zhou Su was also surprised. This kind of gaze wasn't a threat to him. However, the Sword Soul's aura contained in it made him wary. Hiding his strength. Interesting, but that's it. Zhou Su looked down. "You'll know if it's interesting after you try." Lin Xian took a step forward. The aura on his body suddenly changed. An unusually sharp aura surged out, causing the surrounding air to surge and the sky to tremble. It was as if it was cut open by a peerless divine sword. Suddenly, everyone was stunned. Everyone widened their eyes and looked at this scene in disbelief. Lin Xian's aura was so sharp that they couldn't bear it. Even Dongfang Phoenix was surprised. Her beautiful eyes turned and stared at Lin Xian. This aura was enough to threaten her. "It seems that I've underestimated him before." Feeling Lin Xian's aura, Zhou Su's face darkened. His gaze was cold as he looked ahead. No one dared to provoke him like this. Ding, ding, ding. Sparks collided in the void, and the air rippled. Each ripple contained a terrifying murderous intent. "I'm curious. What kind of strength do you have that makes you so arrogant?" The two of them were tit for tat. They were like two divine swords confronting each other. Countless tiny sword auras surged, forming a terrifying field that made the place extremely dangerous. "Stop!" the red-robed elder shouted in a low voice. With a wave of his sleeve, he broke the invisible sword aura field. Fighting is prohibited in front of the true spirit hall. If you want to fight, the freshman assembly is your battlefield. The freshman assembly. Many people pricked up their ears and became excited. This was definitely a good opportunity to show off in Senmu College. "Very well, I'll let you be arrogant for a while. Wait until the freshman assembly, you'll know how stupid you are. Lin Xian retracted his aura. You're courting death. Zhou Su's face darkened. This was what he should have said. Humph, strength is not something you can say. When the time comes, I'll let you know what it means to be strong. All right, now follow me into the true spirit hall, the red-robed elder said. Then, he joined forces with the other 3 elders to open the door of the true spirit hall. Everyone followed behind cautiously. This time, we came to the true spirit hall to broaden your horizons. At the same time, we'll make immortal martial spirit tablets for you to become real members of Senmu College. Then, the 4 elders entered the hall, took out a crystal jade tablet half the size of a palm, and threw it into the sky. Everyone, 1 tablet. Drip your blood essence and engrave your soul mark. Looking at the immortal martial spirit tablets that were like a rain of light, everyone moved. Lin Xian waved his hand, grabbed a crystal tablet, and operated according to the rules. Drip his blood essence and engrave his soul mark. Soon, the immortal martial spirit tablet bloomed with light and flew toward Lin Xian. Grabbing the tablet, Lin Xian felt as if he had become one with it. He looked at it carefully and found that the words Immortal Martial were engraved on the front of the tablet. Behind it was his name. Chapter 717. With the Immortal Martial Spirit Tablet, he would be an official disciple of Senmu College from now on. Lin Xian noticed that the others were studying the spirit tablet in their hands, so he curiously poured his spirit energy into it. Immediately, the immortal martial spirit tablet bloomed with light, forming a small light screen in the air. Above the light screen, there were all sorts of words and images. Lin Xian raised his head and looked over. Surging wave sword technique, water attribute sword technique. Sword chi is like the waves of the sea, rolling back the 9 heavens. Top spiritual rank cultivation technique. Exchange for spiritual value points, 5,000 spiritual value points. Roaring Flame Saber, high-grade spiritual rank artifact, can increase fire damage by 2 times, has a continuous burning effect, exchange for spiritual value points, 7,000 spiritual value points. Purple Spirit Sand, as heavy as 10,000 kilograms, can increase the effect of refining and increase the attack power of the artifact. Exchange for spiritual value points, 10,000 spiritual value points. It was densely packed with all sorts of martial arts, cultivation techniques, artifacts, and so on. Lin Xian took a deep breath. So this was the use of spiritual value points. It could be exchanged for all cultivation resources. He carefully looked at the light screen and found that there were many things on it, from low to high, all the way down. The things on the top were relatively low level. Lin Xian scrolled down and his pupils suddenly shrank. Earth rank martial art. Heavenly Moon Evil Shadow Art. Earth Rank Cultivation Technique. Exchange for spiritual value points. 5 million. 5 million. Lin Xian was stunned. From the previous comparison, he knew how terrifying 5 million spiritual value points was. Probably not many people could exchange for it. However, putting an Earth Rank martial art here was a naked temptation. Because everyone knew how precious and terrifying an Earth Rank martial art was, those who had strength would go all out to gather spiritual value points. At this moment, the surrounding warriors also noticed this situation and cried out in alarm. Although they did not have a single spiritual value point, this did not stop their enthusiasm and fantasies. I wonder how many spiritual value points a half-Earth rank martial art is? Lin Xian suddenly remembered that the reward for the top 3 was a half-Earth rank martial art. Then, he quickly searched for it on the light screen. Found it. Demon Slayer Art, half-Earth rank martial art. Exchange for spiritual value points, 300,000. Although it was not as good as an Earth rank martial art, it was still a terrifying number. Seeing everyone's excited expressions, the 4 elders smiled. This was the effect they wanted. All right, I don't think I need to explain the use of spiritual value points. All of you should know, right? The red-robed elder laughed. Elder, how do we obtain spiritual value points? Everyone asked anxiously. There are many ways to obtain spiritual value points. For example, doing academy missions, killing demonic beasts, getting on the Mystic Sovereign leaderboard, and so on. The Academy Handbook will be given to you when the time comes. It's very detailed. Now, I will give you the corresponding spiritual value points according to your rankings in the assessment. The assessment rankings also have spiritual value points. Everyone was excited. Of course, it's not just the ranking in the assessment. In the future, there will be rankings in every competition. Furthermore, the higher the ranking, the higher the spiritual value points. There are even special rewards for the top 3. For example, this time, the top 3 in the assessment will receive a half-Earth tier martial art for free. Half-Earth tier martial art. Everyone's eyes turned red as their breathing quickened. They had just learned from the screen that a half-Earth rank martial art was worth 300,000 spiritual value points. If he were to do quests, he had no idea when he would be able to complete them. Damn it, I have to work hard to cultivate. No, I have to work hard to get a good ranking in the freshman assembly. Everyone was excited. The red-robed elder looked at everyone's excited faces and waved his sleeve, distributing the spiritual value points. Immediately, everyone looked at it excitedly. Lin Xian also lowered his head and saw that the number behind his spirit tablet had begun to change. In the end, it became 3,000. 3,000 spiritual value points. This was the reward for the first place in the assessment. Damn, I can't buy anything, Lin Xian muttered. The cheapest item on the list was 5,000 spiritual value points. His 3,000 spiritual value points were not enough. The first place was 3,000, and the others' spiritual value points decreased in succession. Many people were wailing. If you want good things, then work hard to cultivate, the red-robed elder said. Here, as long as you have enough spiritual value points, you can exchange for anything you want. Now, the top 3 would receive a half-Earth tier martial art. The red-robed elder waved his hand, and an even bigger and brighter light appeared above the hall. The information on it was similar to the Jade token, but there were more and more comprehensive. There were a total of 4 teams, which meant that 12 people were able to obtain a half-Earth tier martial art. This Senmu College was really generous. However, Lin Xian felt relieved. It was just learning. Senmu College would not lose anything. Moreover, it could increase his sense of belonging to the college. Lin Xian saw even more high-level cultivation techniques on the light screen in the sky, as well as some rare treasures. If these things were placed in the outside world, each of them would cause a huge commotion. It was enough to make everyone go crazy. This was also why the other forces in the Blood Realm had tried to invade Senmu College many times. Fortunately, Senmu College was strong enough to intimidate strong enemies. Moreover, Senmu College had experienced thousands of years. Countless experts had walked out from here. After they left, they would all be overlords. Although there was nothing much on normal days, if Senmu College was in trouble, these people would definitely come back to help. Therefore, Senmu College was not only strong, but also had a group of powerful helpers. This was the reason why they stood tall in the Blood Realm and prospered for so long. Suddenly, the Crimson Dragon in the demonic beast pouch became excited. Kid, Dragon Blood, Dragon Blood? Hearing the Crimson Dragon's voice transmission, Lin Xian quickly looked over. He saw a few rows of words below the light screen. 8-clawed Tyrant Dragon Blood Essence, the blood essence of a divine beast on the heavenly ranking. It has the ability to seize the fortune of heaven and earth. It contains powerful energy. When used by martial artists, it can change one's physique. The lowest level is the king level. If there is enough blood essence, there is a chance of forming a half-dragon body. Hiss! Lin Xian took a deep breath after reading, as expected of a divine beast's blood essence. It's so powerful. A half-dragon body. Lin Xian guessed that it would not lose to a king-level body. Kid, get it. You must get it. The Crimson Dragon shouted. With it, I will be able to recover my dragon essence in advance. It was too excited. This 8-clawed tyrant dragon was from the same dragon race as it. The blood essence would be extremely useful to it. Lin Xian exclaimed in surprise. Then, he looked at the price and the corner of his mouth twitched. Spiritual value points, 8 million. Kid, if you can exchange for it, I will do anything. The Crimson Dragon was anxious. Anything? Lin Xian became spirited. This Ruzalong was very cunning. Normally, it would do things carelessly and not use its full strength. Now, it was definitely a good thing for it to use its full strength. It seemed that this time, the Ruzalong was really anxious. "Don't worry, I will definitely get it for you," Lin Xian said. However, 8 million spiritual value points is a sky-high price. I estimate that it will take a long time. All right, during this period of time, I will do my best to help you. After the two finished their discussion, the voice of the red-robed old man sounded again. "You little guys, hurry up and choose a half-earth rank martial art." Hearing this, Lin Xian put down the matter of the 8-clawed tyrant dragon's blood essence and began to choose a martial art. Chapter 718. Lin Xian began to choose a martial arts cultivation technique. He had an earth rank martial arts, so he did not need to use it for the time being. He also had the red lotus armor for defense, so he focused on attacking. 4 Seasons sword technique. This is it. Soon, Lin Xian chose his target. 4 Seasons sword technique was a half-earth rank martial arts. It had 4 different attacking styles: spring, summer, autumn, and winter. It was strange and varied, and its attacks were powerful. After Lin Xian, the others quickly made their choices as well. Murong Qingqing chose the Falling Flower Sword Palm, Dongfang Fenghuang chose the 10,000 Flame Seal, and Lin Xian did not look at the others carefully. After choosing, the red-robed elder gave each of them a jade slip with a half-earth rank martial arts copied inside. Then, he gave them a scroll of academy rules, which recorded in detail how to obtain spiritual value points. Next was to arrange the accommodation. The red-robed elder and the other 4 elders led Lin Xian and the others out of the true spirit hall and to the square outside the hall. Then, several figures flew over from the horizon. Whoosh! 6 figures landed. There were men and women, and they all looked middle-aged. As for their specific age, it was unknown. The 6 of them landed on the square and began to distribute the disciples. More than 400 disciples were evenly distributed to the 6 middle-aged mentors. Among them, Lin Xian and Murong Qingqing were placed together. This made countless male students jealous. The mentor in charge of Lin Xian and the others was a middle-aged man with a square face. He said in a deep voice, "Follow me." Immediately, dozens of figures stood up and followed behind the square-faced middle-aged man, flying into the depths of the academy. After passing through the halls, Lin Xian and the others stopped at a place with beautiful scenery. "This is your accommodation area. My name is Guozhang. You can call me Mentor Gua," the middle-aged man said. Lin Xian looked around. The surroundings were lush, and there were mountains and rivers in the distance. In front of him was a courtyard. It was quiet and comfortable, very suitable for living. Moreover, Lin Xian's eyes widened. He realized that the spiritual energy here was very rich, much stronger than outside. That's right, there's a spirit gathering array here. Seeing that Lin Xian had discovered something, the middle-aged instructor smiled and said, "Of course, this is only the most ordinary spirit gathering array. If you want a higher-level spirit gathering array, you will need your spiritual value points." "There's something even better?" Lin Xian was surprised. "This is already much better than the outside world. What's even better?" Thinking of this, his heart burned with passion. The others were equally excited. Cultivating in a place like this would definitely yield twice the results with half the effort. However, Instructor Gua's next sentence extinguished everyone's enthusiasm. "There's no such thing as a free lunch in this world. You have to pay to live in a house. Starting from here, the deeper you go, the denser the spiritual qi is. Of course, the more expensive it is. 500 spiritual value points for a month outside, 1,000 spiritual value points for a month in the middle, and 2,000 spiritual value points for a month inside. So expensive." Everyone cried out in alarm. Many people's faces darkened because they had just arrived at the academy. The spiritual value points in their hands were the rewards for ranking in the examination. Those students who were ranked at the bottom did not even have 500 spiritual value points in their hands. They probably could not even afford to live in the outermost courtyard. Seeing the embarrassed looks of the newcomers, Instructor Gua smiled. "Since you guys have just arrived, you can owe the first month's rent first. You can pay it all together next month. All right, you can choose now." Everyone's expressions were solemn, as if they were facing a great enemy. The courtyard inside was good, but 2,000 spiritual value points per month was really a sky-high price. Although they could pay it late, it did not mean that they could not pay it at all. Everyone thought about it and decided to live in the outermost courtyard first. They would consider the house inside after they had stabilized. "Where do you live?" Morong Qingqing asked. "Inside," Lin Xian replied. He had 3,000 spiritual value points in his hands. It was enough for the first month. Moreover, he believed that with his strength, he should be able to earn enough spiritual value points. Moreover, the spiritual qi here was indeed not bad. It could speed up his cultivation. Only when his cultivation reached the venerable realm would Lin Xian feel confident. After all, there were too many monsters in Sinma College. "I'll go too." Seeing that Lin Xian had chosen the inside, Morong Qingqing followed. "Sigh. I'm so envious to have a beauty accompanying me." Many people were jealous, but they knew that Lin Xian was truly powerful. They could not be envious. If they wanted to achieve what they wanted, they could only work hard to cultivate and increase their strength. Shaoli chose the courtyard in the middle. Shin Yaotian stared at the backs of Lin Xian and Morong Qingqing, his eyes burning with anger. However, when he saw the spiritual value points in his hand, his face immediately darkened. In the end, he could only choose the courtyard in the middle. Walking on the small path paved with gravel, Lin Xian felt that the spiritual qi was getting denser and denser. He was in a good mood. The 2,000 spiritual value points were worth it. How great would it be if I could master this kind of spirit-gathering array? Lin Xian was envious. When the time comes, I'll establish the Dragon Sword Pavilion and get 100 spirit-gathering arrays. Bah! The Crimson Dragon looked down on him and said, "What do you think this is? Cabbage? This kind of exquisite spirit-gathering array is not something that an ordinary person can set up. Don't I have you?" Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. "Aren't you known as a formation master? This spirit-gathering array shouldn't be difficult for you, right? If I was at my peak, it would be a piece of cake. But now, it's really difficult." The Crimson Dragon drooped his head. "It's fine. There's no rush. You should first understand the spirit-gathering array here. I'll think of a way to increase your strength." Lin Xian frowned. "What are you thinking about?" Seeing that Lin Xian did not speak, but his expression kept changing, Morong Qingqing asked in confusion, No. I'm just amazed by this powerful and magical spirit-gathering array." "You mean this?" "As far as I know, this is only an ordinary spirit-gathering array. There are intermediate and advanced spirit-gathering arrays above this. Only those are considered good. There's more." Lin Xian sucked in a breath of cold air. This was really an eye-opening experience. "All right, don't be so serious. If you join the Morong family, all of this will be nothing to you." Morong Qingqing tempted. "Will you consider it?" "This chick is at it again." Lin Xian was helpless. Am I that good?" Morong Qingqing tilted her head and looked at him. "Although you're not the strongest, you're the most special martial artist I've ever seen. I have a feeling that your future achievements will be limitless, so I have to make the most of it now." "Are you sure?" Lin Xian was surprised. Don't underestimate a woman's sixth sense. Morong Qingqing was very confident, and all the things you've done have shown that you're indeed very special. "How about this? Why don't we make a bet?" Lin Xian saw that he could not escape, so he came up with an idea. "What? Let's bet on who will be the first on the Mystic Sovereign leaderboard." Lin Xian's eyes shone brightly. "If it's you, then I'll join you unconditionally. If I'm the first one, then don't ever mention this again." If anyone else was present, they would definitely go crazy. Lin Xian was a new student who had not even reached the martial venerable realm, but he was actually thinking about the Mystic Sovereign leaderboard. Moreover, he was betting on first place. This was a madman. It was evening. The setting sun shone through the layers of leaves, forming spots of light that scattered on Lin Xian's face. It was as if he was covered in a layer of radiance. Lin Xian walked in the forest with a young and confident smile on his face. He was like a king as he spoke those words that would make anyone go crazy. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.